Chapter 807. When Li Zongjio had just been reborn, he was very low-key. Li Zongjio rarely took the initiative to provoke other forces. He would wait until these people came knocking on his door and Li Zongjio was forced to fight back. But now, it was different. With Li Zongjio's current strength, he did not need to be low-key anymore. Just like the Shenyuan sect that came to him. So what if you are arrogant and overbearing? As long as you dare to come, I will cripple you. Originally, Li Zongjio planned to go to the Shenyuan sect directly. Later, the people of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion came to him and mediated this matter. So, Li Zongjio did not pursue this matter for the time being. But if these people did not know the difference between life and death, then they would not have the chance to regret it in front of Li Zongjio. Just like with the Ardent Earth sect. Really, a dog cannot change its habit of eating shit. They did not even weigh their own weight and dared to provoke Li Zongjio. What kind of tail did they have? They were useless in front of Li Zongjio. Li Yun was not clear about the enmity between the Ardent Earth sect and Li Zongjio. But she thought that it should not be a powerful character. Anyway, as long as Li Zongjio was here, there would not be any problems. Li Zongjio did not receive any response from Tian Fei, but someone came to him immediately. Hua Mei, who had been watching Li Zongjio, knew that this was a rare opportunity when he saw Tian Fei and Kuan Erisher leave. As for the other woman, if he was not mistaken, she should be a trash who only knew how to talk. As for Li Zongjio, although he had some strength, the Ardent Earth sect had also come prepared. It was impossible for them to not be able to deal with an expert like him. It was a very simple task to specifically target this kind of expert who was separated from the group. Surround this inn. Hua Mei ordered. Immediately, more than 10 elite disciples rushed out from behind. The huge formation directly sent the diners, who were still eating, flying with a kick. Get out if you don't want to die. Those who had eyes could immediately see that these were the people of the Ardent Earth sect. Not far away, they were the sect of the Ardent Earth sect, who in the Black Horse town did not know the strength of the Ardent Earth sect's people. They immediately ran away. Brat, you've got guts to come here alone. Since you've come to our Ardent Earth sect's territory, we should do our part as hosts. On Hua Mei's face, there was a look of a villain intoxicated by success. Li Yun glanced around and saw a total of 16 Ardent Earth sect disciples. They are going to set up a formation. Li Yun immediately whispered. When Li Zongjio heard Li Yun's words, he looked directly at Li Yun and ignored the others. Why are you staring at me? Li Yun looked at Li Zongjio's strange behavior and felt quite strange. At this time, Li Zongjio never felt nervous. Facing a big sect, the most difficult thing to deal with was these people's formations. They were very good at it. Moreover, these people usually cultivated together. Once they formed a formation, the power they possessed would be extremely terrifying. It was simply unimaginable. You can see what kind of formation it is? Li Zongjio curiously looked at Li Yun. Li Yun felt the pressure and began to quickly observe the formation of these people. Soon, she found that these people's formation was very strange. However, Li Yun quickly determined the formation of these people based on some clues around them. Scorching Gale formation. I once saw an introduction to this kind of formation in a miscellaneous book. Within this Scorching Gale formation, everything will be destroyed. Not even bones will be left. When Li Yen mentioned this array formation, she was also shocked in her heart. I remember now. The Scorching Sun sect originated from this kind of formation. Li Yun immediately exclaimed. Looks like your talent in formations is not bad. Li Zongjio obviously couldn't see what kind of formation these people were setting up. He didn't need to observe these things at all. You can set it up as you wish. I'll just sit here and give you enough time to prepare. You can set it up as you please. In any case, Li Zongjio would be able to break it easily in the end. No matter how powerful your formation is, it can't be as powerful as the people in Qingyuan Manor. Not bad, Mies. This Scorching Gale formation is specialized in restraining all kinds of attributes. Either we rush out now, or we'll be finished when the formation is completed. Are we still going to sit here? Why don't you cover me and I'll escape first? Li Yun said. Because she understood formations, she was very clear about the power of this formation and felt a deep respect for it. What Huomei needed was Li Yun's respect. Hehe, if you want to leave, I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Since you know this formation, feel it well. Start the formation. Under Huomei's command, the surrounding disciples of the Ardent Earth sect immediately released their Yuan force. The few of them connected with each other. Boom! A gust of chilly wind rose from the ground. This gust of wind was like a knife easily flashing in front of them. In an instant, it directly slashed towards Li Zongjio and Huomei. Seeing these wind blades coming towards them, Li Yun quickly said, "These wind blades are endless. We must find a gap in this storm. Otherwise, we will be continuously pierced by these wind blades, just like 1,000 arrows piercing through our hearts." Just as she finished speaking, Li Zongjio's hand had already reached out of the formation with a swoosh. He directly grabbed a disciple of the Ardent Earth sect and threw him in front of him. Countless wind blades directly slashed the disciple of the Ardent Earth sect into a porcupine. Puff, puff, puff. He could clearly feel the pain as he listened to the waves of energy shuttling through his body. Even his bones were broken within his body. His entire body was paralyzed as he lay dead on the ground. Li Zongjio then grabbed Li Yun. After all, there were too many dangers in the surroundings. If he didn't protect Li Yun well, he would probably be slashed into two halves. The number of people who had set up the array was decreasing one after another. When the number of people was reduced to 5, the array formation directly collapsed. When the formation disappeared, there were already 11 corpses left on the ground. What? Huomei never imagined how Li Zongjio did it. Just as Huomei was in a daze, Li Zongjio's figure flashed and appeared in front of Huomei. "I see that your eyebrows are quite unique. I wonder what they will look like when they are burned." Li Zongjio flicked his finger, and a flame burned Huomei's eyebrows. Chapter 808. Huomei never thought that his eyebrows would be burned on the spot at such an old age. Let go of Protector Huomei. The remaining disciples saw that Huomei was directly held hostage by Li Zongjio and quickly said. However, when they saw the corpses on the ground, they hesitated and did not dare to go forward. They only dared to stand at a distance and call for help, but they were reluctant to go forward. Once they went forward and were accidentally killed by Li Zongjio, wouldn't it be a great loss? "I'll give you a chance to leave, otherwise I don't mind killing a few more." Li Zongjio glanced at the 5 disciples who were still alive in front of him. "My Ardent Earth sect's disciples are not cowards who are afraid of death." Huomei's eyebrows were burned, and he was incomparably humiliated. He angrily rebuked Li Zongjio, but now his neck was in Li Zongjio's hands. When he spoke, his saliva almost sprayed on Li Zongjio's face. "Don't worry, Protector. We'll go and find the vice sect leader." "Yes, Protector, you must hold on." Immediately, the 5 disciples turned around and directly jumped out of the inn's window. Bang, bang. Because the door was blocked by Li Zongjio, these people did not hesitate to jump out of the window to escape. Seeing these disciples flee, it was a huge blow to Huomei. This was a huge blow to Huomei. He never thought that he would do such a thing. Just a moment ago, he said that the disciples of the Ardent Earth sect would never run away. In the blink of an eye, all of them had run away. "Li Zongjio, don't be arrogant. I don't believe that you dare to kill me." Huomei immediately straightened his chest, as if he was waiting to see if Li Zongjio dared to kill him. Li Zongjio directly took action and forcefully crushed Huomei's throat. Under Li Zongjio's control, Huomei had no way to mobilize his Yuan force, so he was like a lamb in Li Zongjio's hand. The last sentence just now became Huomei's last words. He casually tossed the corpse onto the ground. How dare he make a bet with Li Zongjio? He was truly reckless. There were quite a few people who were secretly watching this scene. When they saw Li Zongjio killing a protector of the Ardent Earth sect without the slightest hesitation and effortlessly killing a protector of the Ardent Earth sect, as well as a dozen disciples lying on the ground, a storm rose in their hearts. Such a scene was indeed extremely spectacular. What a terrifying person, this guy. He must have a very strong background. Damn, That's the protector of Earth's sect. Someone cried out in surprise. Moreover, Li Zongjio did not seem to see these people as human lives. Who would dare to sit down and have a meal with such a terrifying person who killed people like scything flax? Naturally, all of them quietly slipped away. You killed so many people, Li Yun saw so many corpses lying on the ground and could not help but feel a little scared. However, her psychological quality was not bad, so she quickly calmed down. These people wanted to kill us. This world is lacking in many things, but there are too many people who deserve to die. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Since they had provoked Li Zongjio, then they could only wait for death. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had experienced many life and death situations, and had seen many tragic scenes. Therefore, sympathy was the most worthless thing. Li Zongjio had long forgotten about sympathy, and only his own heart had persisted until now. That's true. Li Yun also kicked Huamei's body, causing him to roll a few times on the ground. This is for you. See how much you can understand. Li Zongjio gave Li Yun a tattered and old book. Li Yun curiously took the book. After flipping to a page, her eyes could not leave the book. This is an encyclopedia of array formations. It's so detailed, such a detailed array formation book? Li Yun said excitedly, as if she had found a treasure. This book was also stolen from the underground black market of the sacred Flame Royal City. If she did not remember wrongly, it should be there. It's good that you can read it. Li Zongjio looked at Li Yun's interested expression and knew that Li Yun might have an extraordinary understanding of array formations. If she had talent in this area, then perhaps she could be nurtured into an array formation genius. This was also a very good thing for the Li family. Li Zongjio was not very proficient in array formations in his previous life. If Li Yun was really interested, then he would help Li Yun find a good teacher. In this world, only Li Zongjio was so confident. Array formation masters all had strange tempers, but they were all of high status. If they were given enough time and energy, they would not have a problem fighting against 100 people. Therefore, array formation masters were extremely precious resources. If they were powerful, it would be even more important if they wanted to take in a disciple. However, since Li Zongjio thought so, then he must have his own way. As long as Li Zongjio wanted something, then there was basically nothing that could not be done. If this person was not willing to teach, then Li Zongjio would not mind chopping off his head. In this world, other than strength, the most important thing was one's fists. These corpses, the inn's shopkeeper walked out with his hands raised. He looked at Li Zongjio and the corpses in front of him. You can clean them up. Li Zongjio casually threw out a few purple yuan coins. Just these few purple yuan coins were enough to cover the inn's income for a few months. The shopkeeper immediately ordered his subordinates to move the corpses to the back courtyard. After all, he still needed to do business here. If someone died in an accident, it wouldn't be his inn's responsibility. Therefore, he didn't care about this. There was no inn that did not have people dying. If there were no deaths in this inn, then it was not a good inn. Who knows, if a powerful person suddenly died in your inn, then your inn would become popular all of a sudden. Boss, we are back. Kuan Erisher and Tian Fei also stepped into the inn. They just happened to see the inn's waiter cleaning up the bloodstains on the ground. When they saw that there was no one in the inn, they immediately guessed that there were people here. They were really reckless. Kuan Erisher knew about Li Zongjio's strength. If they met Li Zongjio, then there was basically no way for them to live peacefully. Being able to die a quick death was already a very fortunate thing. Tian Fei was carrying a person with a bloody nose and a swollen face. His body was full of wounds and blood. Even now, he was already in a semi-conscious state. Chapter 809. There's someone here too? Kuan Erisher was obviously a little surprised. However, this mission was really not simple. It took a lot of effort to capture this guy. You guys are really something. You only have so few people, yet you still split them up. How interesting. Kuan Erisher used a basin of water to wake the person in front of him up. Tian Fei did not say much. After all, Tian Fei's identity was different from Kuan Erashi's. Tianfei was only a subordinate of Li Zongjio. As the deputy sect master of Ardent Earth sect, Xing Qianxiu had seen too many situations. Xing Qianxiu didn't even know how many things he had to deal with. Many troublesome problems were easily solved by him. Therefore, Xing Qianxiu was very confident in his ability. Even though the sect master had given him the mission to get rid of Li Zongjio, Xing Qianxiu felt that it was a very simple matter. However, he did not expect that two young men would actually kill their way to his residence today. Given the strength of Ardent Earth sect, it was very normal for them to set up a branch hall in Black Horse Town. Xing Qianxiu was naturally disdainful when he saw the two youths charging towards him. These days, there were too many people who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Therefore, Xing Qianxiu didn't put the two youths in his eyes. He ordered his men to capture them and torture them before interrogating them. Who knew that these two young men would start a massacre as soon as they rushed into the courtyard? These so-called elite disciples of Ardent Earth sect were like a pile of tofu in front of these two young men. They were directly knocked to the ground and a large number of them were knocked down. After that, when Xing Qianxiu reacted, he was already beaten up by these two young men. Xing Qianxiu was also a Yuan monarch elite. More or less, Xing Qianxiu had some status in the Jianghu. But now that he had been plotted against and reduced to such a state, Xing Qianxiu was even more furious and displeased. He immediately glared at the people in front of him. "How dare you plot against me? Do you know who I am?" Xing Qianxiu immediately stood up. However, he discovered that there were no signs of him being tied up. These people actually allowed him to move freely without any restrictions. However, when Xing Qianxiu saw the corpse lying on the floor in front of him, his eyes widened. This was a corpse that hadn't been cleaned up yet. This corpse was none other than Protector Huamei. Although Protector Huamei's eyebrows had been burned off, one could still tell that the person in front of them was Protector Huamei. "How dare you kill Huamei?" Xing Qianxiu's eyes widened as he stared at Li Zongjio and the people around him. He couldn't believe it. Could it be that these youngsters had already reached such a level of lawlessness? After all, this was the Black Horse Town, and the headquarters of the Ardent Earth sect was not far away. Although Xing Qianxiu was flying at a higher altitude, the Qilin battleship easily surpassed Xing Qianxiu. After all, Xing Qianxiu was a Yuan monarch elite and was confident in his ability to escape. He was able to escape the pursuit of these young people. When he immediately escaped, he realized that the Qilin battleship was following closely behind him. Even under the huge pressure, Xing Qianxiu felt the fear of being chased by a huge beast. He was gradually shocked. Damn it! Along the way, Xing Qianxiu's figure directly chased into the distance. He did not know how much pressure he was under as he ran frantically. Finally, a towering mountain peak appeared in front of him. There seemed to be an extremely powerful force around the mountain peak, warning the surroundings. Even a flock of birds and beasts did not dare to come close. "Wait for your death, you trash!" Xing Qianxiu's eyes emitted a cold light. Chapter 8:10. Li Zongjio stood on the Qilin battleship and saw a sect appear in front of him. On top of the mountain, there were layers upon layers of tall buildings. They slowly appeared in front of him, overlapping with each other. It was a magnificent sight. "Since you're here, let's greet them." Li Zongjio gestured to Li Yun. At first, Li Yun did not understand what he meant. However, when she saw Li Zongjio adjusting the cannon, she understood. Immediately, Li Yun adjusted the energy cannons in the Qilin battleship. Some of the Ardent Earth sect disciples who were still in the sect lifted their heads to look at the Qilin battleship. The appearance of such a huge battleship piqued their curiosity. "Who is that? How dare he drive a battleship to our sect? Our sect has a space-prohibiting array. Is this guy here to provoke our sect? Within 1,000 miles, no other sect dares to go against us. These people are obviously here to die. How dare they not know the rules? We'll blast them down sooner or later." That's right. I wonder where this country bumpkin came from. Obviously, these Ardent Earth sect disciples had a strong sense of honor. When they saw the Qilin battleship, they were extremely xenophobic. After all, these people thought that the Qilin battleship was too arrogant. Even Xing Qianqiu sneered in his heart. But then he suddenly heard a loud boom above his head. Boom! A terrifying sound vibrated out. It was as if the airwaves in the sky had been blown away. He could see a bright light wave rushing towards the Sex Elders' Hall at an incomparably fast speed. This was a sleeping chamber specially for the elders to rest. Boom! A hall that was almost 7 stories high was instantly smashed into pieces. The edge of the hall also directly rumbled a few times before it collapsed. It was like a real landslide and the earth was cracking. As for the disciples of Ardent Earth Sect, their jaws dropped when they saw this scene. The Elders' Hall, has collapsed. Fuck, are they here to attack our sect? I never thought that I would encounter something so exciting in my lifetime. Many disciples of the Ardent Earth Sect were excited. It was not common for their sect to be attacked. Moreover, the strength of the Ardent Earth Sect was not weak. It would not be easy to cover it up. As a disciple of the Ardent Earth Sect, it was rare for him to witness such a scene. Therefore, he had mixed feelings about it. However, after the commotion, some people immediately woke up with a start. Fuck, the sect has been attacked. Quick, save the elder. Elders, are you alright? Many elders were resting at this moment. Now that they were suddenly shot through the window by a cannon, it was probably something that ordinary people could imagine. As for those elders who were hit by the cannon, they couldn't believe it. Who would have thought that something like this would happen to them? What's going on? As the vice sect master, Xing Qianqiu seemed to have finally realized what the current situation was. The collapse of the elders' sleeping chamber also caused these disciples to become nervous. Some of the elders were dug out, while others were buried deep underground. There were a total of 50 elders in the Ardent Earth Sect, and only a dozen of them crawled out. A group of disciples lifted a large stone slab. He saw an elder and a senior sister hugging each other naked on a bedsheet. However, they were still unconscious. The power of the blast just now was too strong. Isn't that senior sister Xuelian? When the disciples saw this scene, they instantly felt as if their world had exploded. His senior sister, who was usually his goddess, had actually appeared in the elder's bed at night. Boom! Because of the shock, he loosened his grip and the stone slab was pressed down again. Shit! The disciples looked at each other. If the stone slab fell down with a bang, it would definitely cause the elder and senior sister to be injured again. Wouldn't that be killing the elder? Immediately, the disciples signaled with their eyes and then pretended to look for other survivors. Immediately, the disciples of the Ardent Earth Sect who were responsible for guarding the Qilin battleship rushed towards it. However, there weren't many disciples who could fly in the air. A total of 6 people rushed towards the Qilin battleship first. Isn't that the deputy sect leader? Did the deputy sect leader bring people to attack our sect? When the disciples saw Xing Qianqiu, their eyes widened. They couldn't believe their eyes. There were a lot of strange things that happened tonight. First, the sect was attacked. Now, it was the vice sect master who brought people here. One of them looked a little older, so he was asked to speak. He coughed softly, stepped forward, and shouted at the Qilin battleship. "Who are you? Tell me your name." However, there was no response from the Qilin battleship. The cannon on the Qilin battleship was aimed at the formation of the 6 people. "Disperse!" The young man who was leading the group immediately exclaimed. Boom! Another resplendent light emerged. When the 6 disciples sensed the emergence of this intense light, although they dodged quickly, the power of the light still remained in the area. Boom! The few of them were immediately blinded and deafened. Although it was only for a short period of time, under such power, it was still unbearable. Xing Qianqiu watched as the cannon on the Qilin battleship aimed at the book depository hall of the Ardent Earth Sect. The book depository hall contained the sect's cultivation techniques, and there were even a few top-notch elemental arts. There were even unique copies that couldn't be duplicated. Once duplicated, the imprint of the elemental arts would disappear, which was equivalent to losing the elemental arts. However, all of these didn't exist now. When the guardian elder of the book depository hall sensed the might of this cannon, he immediately leaped forward and charged towards the light cannon. However, This light cannon contained the power of an upper-grade elemental stone. How could it be blocked so easily? Boom! The Guardian Elder was directly blasted into nothingness. The tall, precious, and ancient book depository hall. It was like an incense stick that had been burned out, directly turning into ashes. Chapter 8:11. They could only watch helplessly as their book depository hall was reduced to a pile of ashes. To them, this was a very solemn place of inheritance. But now, it had been reduced to ashes by a single shot from the enemy. This, Xing Qianqiu had long forgotten about the so-called fear when he saw this scene. Only endless confusion remained in his eyes. Xing Qianqiu couldn't have imagined the development of the current situation. Stop it! Xing Qianqiu roared at the Qilin battleship where Li Zongjiu and the rest were. He stared at the Qilin battleship above and wished he could blast it into pieces. He was the one who had brought this terrifying thing here. Of course, Xing Qianqiu was not worried about the destruction of these sects' holy lands. He was worried that these sects would definitely hold him responsible after this incident. Today, Li Zongjiu will not kill you. However, if Ardent Earth sect continues to be stubborn, then don't blame me for being impolite. Li Zongjiu shouted in the direction of the people from Ardent Earth sect. Sometimes, it was more effective to beat people until they were scared than to kill them directly. Therefore, after Li Zongjiu used the Qilin battleship to intimidate them, this matter was over. If they continued to be stubborn and wanted to provoke Li Zongjiu, then he would wait for Li Zongjiu to come back and destroy Ardent Earth sect directly. Directly driving the Qilin warship and firing 2 cannons was simply more direct and simple than anything else. Ignoring Xing Qianqiu's incessant shouting below, Li Zongjiu turned around and left in front of Ardent Earth sect. The effect of this demonstration was quite good. These people from Ardent Earth sect had never expected that someone would attack in such a way. The sudden attack was something that the elders and disciples did not expect at all. In fact, they did not even have the slightest inkling of what was going on. Yet, they had already suffered extremely heavy losses. Xing Qianqiu looked at the departing Qilin battleship and Li Zongjiu and the others. Looking at the miserable state of the Ardent Earth sect, Xing Qianqiu felt that this was a hellish torture. Xing Qianqiu even thought of taking advantage of the chaos to leave the sect tonight. Damn it, that damned Li Zongjiu. Except for Li Zongjiu, the rest of the people on the Qilin warship felt like they were in a dream. This deterrence of strength was quite wonderful. Ordinary people would never have thought that there would be such a thing and it would even succeed. Under normal circumstances, if you were to go alone without any preparation, you would be targeted the moment you stepped into the vicinity of the other party's sect. Then, it wouldn't be a problem for them to deal with you directly. There was simply no chance for him to leave like this. The reason why he was able to achieve today's result was because he was bold. Secondly, the power of the Qilin battleship was indeed too powerful. This time, it was an easy bombardment and it had already completed its mission. Then it quickly left. If it had enough energy, it might even be possible to wipe out the Ardent Earth sect today. After thinking about the dangers, Kuan Erishur and the others became excited. Oh my god, this warship is too powerful. Kuan Erishur was also amazed by the Qilin battleship in his hands. He had never seen such a powerful weapon. The Qilin battleship was one of them. It was extremely powerful and intimidating. If their Kuan castle could have a few more of such weapons, then the power of Kuan castle would also increase tremendously. The bombardment just now consumed 1 upper-grade primordial stone. Li Yun set up the Qilin battleship and was now slowly returning to the Black Horse town. When he heard Li Yun's words, Kuan Erishur was in a bad mood. Just now, 2 primordial stones were directly consumed. Who could afford to consume such a thing? No wonder it was so powerful. However, if the battle continued like this, no matter how rich one's family was, it would be impossible to consume such a huge amount of primordial stones. That's way too expensive. But this is the first time I've ever experienced something like this. Kuan Erishur said excitedly. Not only was Kuan Erishur excited, but Tian Fei also admired Li Zongjiu's courage even though he did not say it out loud. Facing a sect and facing the threat of an ancient emperor expert were two completely different levels. However, Li Zongjio was fearless and directly killed his way out. It was really admirable. Let's go back to the Black Horse Town first. There will be more of such things in the future. Li Zongjio said slowly. Such a small matter was nothing. Li Zongjio's battle record in his previous life could be said to be even more glorious. This was just a small lesson, and Li Zongjio didn't even use his full strength. If Li Zongjio really got serious, then the Ardent Earth sect would be doomed. Li Yun also looked at Li Zongjio, who was sitting quietly. She realized that she did not understand her brother at all. However, this did not prevent Li Yun from admiring and trusting Li Zongjio. It was Li Yun's first time piloting the Qilin battleship to battle. If they could not escape just now, then it would be destroyed by Ardent Earth sect. As the captain of the ship, Li Yun naturally could not escape. However, Li Yun did not hesitate to obey Li Zongjio's orders. This was a big matter of directly attacking a sect. The consequences of provoking an entire sect were very serious. However, with Li Zongjio around, everything was fine. The four of them returned to the Black Horse Town safe and sound. At this moment, in Black Horse Town, those who did not know that Li Zongjio had already gone to Ardent Earth sect to greet them only knew that Li Zongjio seemed to have crippled Ardent Earth sect's protector Huamei. Immediately, Black Horse Town also started a heated discussion about this matter. They were all discussing whether this matter was true or false. It must be fake news. That is Ardent Earth sect. Who doesn't know the name of Ardent Earth sect within 1,000 miles? That's right. The deputy sect master of Ardent Earth sect is an expert of the Yuan King realm. I heard that the deputy sect master of Ardent Earth sect is in Black Horse Town. If anyone dares to spread such a rumor, aren't they afraid that the deputy sect master of Ardent Earth sect will deal with them? How audacious! Someone slammed the board and said, obviously he was supporting the Ardent Earth sect. That's not necessarily true. Li Zongjio is a figure who has made a name for himself in Sacred Flame Royal City. He must not be simple to be able to make a name for himself in Sacred Flame Royal City. I also heard that Li Zongjio is an honorary elder of Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. Chapter 8:12. Because of Li Zongjio's extraordinary performance in the Black Horse Square during the day, there were many people who paid attention to this Li Zongjio afterwards. News about this Li Zongjio suddenly spread all over the sky. It made it so that no one could tell what was real and what was fake. On the contrary, Li Zongjio's reputation gradually rose at this moment. And it was worth mentioning that the 5 Red Flame Saints, 5 great alchemists, were considered an extremely powerful alliance among the rogue cultivators. However, after the death of the Qiankuan Pill Saint, no one else appeared to avenge the death of the Qiankuan Pill Saint. Even the rest of the people had never appeared. Just like that, they disappeared without a trace. This was also the characteristic of these people. Once there was any trouble, they would immediately hide. There was no sense of brotherhood at all. What's more, the strongest Qiankuan Pill Saint was defeated, so what use could these people have? So after thinking about it, they might as well talk about this matter in the future. It could be seen that the brotherhood between these people was not as deep as imagined. For a time, the topic about this Li Zongjio also directly swept the entire Black Horse Town. Even in the alchemy circle in the Qiyun prefecture, most people would clearly know the name of this Li Zongjio. The lively night did not have much impact on Li Zongjio and the others. After teaching the Ardent Earth sect a lesson, they returned to the inn as usual. First, they had another supper and then they went to rest. The few of them were all cultivation maniacs. Whenever they had some free time, they would spend it on cultivation. Li Yun's usual training was considered to be more diligent, but for this Li Yun, the usual training was soulless. It was just to become stronger and train here. But this time was different, when she held the incomplete book in her hand. Li Yun originally wanted to sleep early, but in the end, holding the book in her hand, she couldn't sleep at all. For ordinary people, the content could be said to be very obscure and difficult to understand, but Li Yun was reading it with great interest at this moment. Obviously, this Li Yun also had her own talent in comprehending this array. The second day, Li Zongjio also recited the white god Fu once in the night, and at the same time, he also tempered his blood soul hell. Basically, this was what he had to do every day. Although his strength had made a breakthrough now, he couldn't be arrogant. He had to continue to maintain this state. After all, the enemies in the future would only get stronger. The reason why such a Black Horse Alchemy gathering came to this gathering was also for these 6th-grade medicinal herbs. Usually, these guys would directly hide these 6th-grade medicinal herbs. If you want to buy them, it would take a lot of money and effort. This was a rare opportunity, so Li Zongjio didn't give up. It was just a good opportunity to let Kun Erasure make a name for himself here. In such a place where good people mixed with bad people, the chances of becoming famous were higher, but the chances of dying were naturally higher. If you want to make a name for yourself, you have to take risks. The drunken flower hasn't appeared yet, it seems like it is waiting for a big move. Li Zongjio and the others sat in front of the table. They were discussing where the drunken life flower was located. They also asked these people to pay attention to it. They had to find the drunken life flower no matter what. Several people came to the Black Horse Square again. There were people around to maintain order. These people in front of them could only keep retreating, they couldn't get too close. It was to prevent some irrelevant people from getting close. Compared to yesterday, the number of people today naturally decreased a lot. Many people had been eliminated in the first round. As for those who stayed behind, they were either experts themselves, or they had some tricks up their sleeves. So the next battle was naturally more difficult. The number of arenas decreased directly. On the second day, a total of 20 arena masters were set up and the free arena was cancelled. So if one didn't have enough strength, it was impossible to defend this arena, and it was very likely that he would encounter some situation of attrition battle. As long as he could win, it didn't matter what method was used. Take the initiative to challenge. Li Zongjio said to Kun Erasure. Kun Erasure also nodded. He naturally understood Li Zongjio's meaning. With Kun Arashi's level of strength, it was very difficult to catch up with Li Zongjio, but Li Zongjio still took the initiative to bring him around. It was obvious that he wanted to train him, and treated him as his own brother, so he was willing to do so. Therefore, Lan Kun knew that he had to increase his strength. He had to constantly sharpen himself. Only then would he be able to succeed. Only then can he kill his way out of the thousands of difficulties. Kun Arashi's eyes also had a trace of madness. Lan Kun was not a person who knew his place. Now, he naturally wanted to show off his prowess. Since the Dark Horse Pill gathering was a very good opportunity to show off, Lan Kun naturally wanted to perform well. Immediately, Kun Arashi's figure leaped, and he directly rushed towards the arena. The arena master had already been changed. Those who did not become the arena master yesterday were directly chosen as the arena master today. Unless you did not participate in this Black Horse Pill convention, you would definitely have the opportunity to fight. Yesterday's lucky kid, huh? Hee, do you really think that I don't have any skills? Seeing Kun Erasure jump up, opposite him was a hunchback old man. It was said that this old man bent his back to study alchemy for many years, and that was why he became a hunchback. Some people also said that this old man stole alchemy skills, and his spine was broken. In the end, he became like this and fell to this place. In short, there were all kinds of stories. It did not affect this hunchback old man's prestige at all. Hunchback old man, I have heard of your name when I was in Kun Castle. Kun Erasure looked at the old man in front of him and said. When the hunchback old man heard Kun Arashi's words, his eyes lit up. What did this kid mean? When he thought about it carefully, he immediately understood that this kid actually came from Kun Castle. You are from Kun Castle? Hee, what a coincidence. Looks like you are very confident. Since someone from Kun Castle is here, there is no need for you to go back. The hunchback old man also grinned, revealing a mouth full of big golden teeth. This person was also a wanted criminal in Kun Castle. Although his reputation was not very high, this ordinary wanted criminal still belonged to the category of wanted criminals. Chapter 8:13. The camel-humped old man didn't commit any heinous acts before. However, he violated the rules of Kuan Castle and even ran away without permission. Naturally, he became a wanted criminal in Kuan Castle. However, Kuan Castle didn't have enough manpower, so they didn't chase after these people all over the world. Only when these disciples of Kuan Castle were wandering outside would they catch these people. If they accidentally bumped into one, they would take care of him. For example, Kuan Erasure actually happened to meet the camel-humped old man here. Naturally, they would punish him on the spot to show the prestige of Kuan Castle. Li Zongjio didn't continue to pay attention to the situation here. He didn't care about Kuan Arashi's outcome. If Kuan Erasure succeeded in making his way through the Dark Horse Pill meeting, then Li Zongjio would celebrate for him. However, if Kuan Erasure was harmed, then Li Zongjio would definitely take revenge for Kuan Erasure. This was Li Zongjio's mentality. The honorary elder of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion is actually a 17-year-old youth. How sad. Do you think it's necessary for a trashy force like the Heavenly Pill Pavilion to exist? Li Zongjio was about to ask Feng Tingfei where the damn drunken flower was. After all, if he used his eyes to look for it, who knew how long it would take him to find it? If he directly looked for Feng Tingfei, it might be more effective. However, before he could do so, a voice rang out behind him. From the sound of it, it was obvious that this voice was coming for Li Zongjio. Who do you think you are? Li Zongjio turned around and saw a tall and burly man appear directly behind him. Oh, you're the one who peeped with the binoculars yesterday, right? When Li Zongjio saw Dong Yangbai in front of him, he immediately recognized him. Dong Yangbai didn't expect Li Zongjio to say such words without any restraint. To Dong Yangbai, this was a great provocation. He couldn't help but want to beat Li Zongjio to death on the spot. Who peeped at you? With this young master status, do I need to do such a thing? It was laughable just thinking about it. Bullshit. Stop talking nonsense. Since there's no need to talk between us, let's meet in the arena. Dong Yangbai directly said to Li Zongjio. Do you see that person? Li Zongjio pointed at Lan Kuan, who was currently sparring with the hunchback elder. Dong Yangbai wasn't blind, so he could naturally see it. Defeat him first, then come and find me. After patting Dong Yangbai's shoulder, Li Zongjio left directly. Dong Yangbai was stunned for a moment. Was this kid serious? He actually dared to say such words to Dong Yangbai. This was forcing him to directly kill Li Zongjio. He had even clenched his fist a few times. Very well, you asked for it. Let's see what other excuses you have. Dong Yangbai wasn't in a hurry to deal with Li Zongjio. Instead, he walked directly in the direction of Kuan Erasure. Poor Kuan Erasure didn't know that Li Zongjio's words had brought him a powerful enemy. Kuan Erasure was also fighting desperately in the arena. It took Li Zong a long time to find Feng Tingfei. Do you know who among these people has the drunken life flower? Li Zongjio asked straightforwardly. This put Feng Tingfei in a difficult position. At this time, he obviously didn't say it casually. At least, this was considered a leak of information. However, Li Zongjio came personally to ask. If he didn't give an explanation, he wouldn't be able to get past this hurdle. Although this is against the rules, since Elder Li personally asked, I'll give you face. In fact, the people of the Dong Yao clan have already contacted you. As far as I know, the drunken life flower is in the hands of these people. But I'm not very clear about who has it. Feng Tingfei said. Although it was equivalent to not saying anything, at least this could be used to identify some people. The Dong Yao clan? When Li Zongjio heard this name, he frowned. It wasn't because he had never heard of it. On the contrary, it was because he had heard of the name of the Dong Yao clan that he knew clearly that with the strength of the Dong Yao clan, they shouldn't appear in such a place. This was a little surprising. Why would these people appear in such a place? With the strength of the Dong Yao clan, they naturally wouldn't come to such a place. However, the people of the Myriad Spirits Immortal Shop are not simple. They used a lot of connections to invite these people here. When Feng Tingfei found out that the people of the Myriad Spirits Immortal Shop had invited the people of the Dong Yao clan, he was terrified. He was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Fortunately, he met Li Zongjio. When such a hidden trump card was revealed, Feng Tingfei felt as if he had eaten a calming pill. Whether it was the previous Blue Void or the current Old Mo, those people were not qualified to fight with the people of the Dongyao clan. 10 Directions Medicine Hall seemed to have known about this long ago, so they just casually selected some people to go through the motions. However, it was still unknown whether they had secretly prepared any tricks. If Li Zongjio were to fight with the people of the Dongyao clan now, it was obviously not a wise thing to do. Therefore, Feng Tengfei tried to persuade him. With the strength of the people of the Dongyao clan, they will definitely be able to make it to the end. When the time comes, you will definitely be able to face them. At this moment, we still need to conserve our strength. Bang! As soon as Feng Tengfei finished speaking, a loud noise was heard. At the front of the arena, a figure was directly sent flying to the ground. Kun Arashir. The explosion just now came from the medicinal cauldron in Kun Arashi's hand. In the competition in the arena just now, Kun Arashi's medicinal cauldron was directly shattered. Kun Arashi's figure fell to the ground, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. A piece of trash. You want to compete with me with this kind of trash? A figure stood at the edge of the arena, looking at the person who fell to the ground in front of him with an incomparably arrogant attitude. Then, he looked in the direction of Li Zongjio, his eyes full of provocation. He made a quick judgment. Li Zongjio's eyes immediately turned cold. The smile at the corner of his mouth was quite sinister. If Kun Arashir couldn't make it out of this competition, it was Kun Arashi's problem. However, you can kill Kun Arashir, but you can't humiliate Kun Arashir. No matter what, Kun Arashir was Li Zongjio's brother. You're courting death. It was just a simple word, but it made Feng Tengfei, who was standing beside him, feel an extremely inexplicable tremble. Chapter 8:14. Feng Tengfei's body couldn't help but tremble. At this moment, Li Zongjio's aura was so cold that no one dared to get close to him. He immediately realized that something big was going to happen to Li Zongjio. Feng Tengfei's heart was filled with nervousness and excitement. At the same time, he was a little worried. After all, Li Zongjio could be said to be his only hope. He couldn't count on the other two. Feng Tengfei wasn't mentally prepared to let Li Zongjio fight with these people from the Eastern Medicine clan so soon. That was why he was so nervous. Are you okay? Hey, is there something wrong with your brain? Li Yun helped Kun Arashir up. Looking at the person in front of him, he couldn't wait to rush up and tear apart this person's smirking mouth. It was a face that made people loathe just by looking at it. Kun Arashir also struggled to get up. At this moment, Li Zongjio also walked over. First, he tapped Kun Arashi's body a few times. Finally, he slapped Kun Arashi's body. Kun Arashir suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood. His body returned to normal. You can break my hidden strength. Your eyesight is not bad. You are qualified to fight with me. Dong Yangbai looked at Li Zongjio and said indifferently. There was a strange light in his eyes. He was surprised that Li Zongjio could discover the hidden strength in Kun Arashi's body and remove it so easily. This was what surprised Dong Yangbai. This was not an ability that an alchemist should have. I think you are really tired of living. Li Zongjio glanced at the broken pieces of the alchemy cauldron on the stage. Every alchemy cauldron was the partner of an alchemist. Although it was not so mysterious, deliberately destroying the other party's things was also very hateful. Without saying a word, he walked up to the arena. Since you are so arrogant, then let's bet 36th-tier medicinal herbs. Li Zongjio said directly. 36th grade medicinal herbs. This number was definitely a huge amount of pressure for a force like the 1000-taste herb hall. This pressure was even enough to crush a powerful family. Even if the 100 medicine pavilion wanted to take out so many grade 6 medicinal ingredients at once, it would be somewhat difficult. He definitely wouldn't want to willingly take out this 6th grade medicinal ingredient. It was equivalent to cutting off a piece of meat from the 100 medicine pavilion. Hee, are you trying to scare me? I'm afraid you don't have that ability. In the eyes of ordinary people, 30 stalks of grade 6 medicinal herbs was already an extremely terrifying gamble. However, Dong Yangbai only casually crooked his finger. No problem. I'll give you whatever you want. In the eyes of these people, Sixth-grade medicinal herbs were only equivalent to pocket money. They did not put them in their eyes at all. This was the power of the Eastern medicine family, which controlled powerful resources. What do you want to compete in? You can choose whatever you want. Dong Yangbai was obviously very confident. No matter what Li Zongjio chose, he was confident that he could defeat Li Zongjio directly. Let's compete in what you just did. Compete in suppressing fire. Compete in suppressing fire. It was also a unique competition among alchemists. The flame in an alchemy furnace was not static, and during the process, it would often suddenly emerge when the pill was about to be refined, causing the temperature to rise rapidly. At this time, it was a test of the alchemist's ability to suppress the fire. Once the flames erupt, you won't have the chance to retract the power. If you were unable to suppress the flame, then your furnace of pills would easily turn into a pile of ashes. This was why the ability to suppress the flame was tested. Only an experienced alchemist would be able to control the sudden change of the flame. The competition in this arena was to place the two alchemy furnaces together and send the flame to the other alchemy furnace. At the same time, the alchemist had to suppress the flame in his own alchemy furnace. Whoever extinguished the other's flame first would be the winner. This was the so-called competition in suppressing fire. Obviously, Kuan Erisher and Dong Yangbai were competing in suppressing fire. The result could be seen from the scene. The fragments scattered all over the ground. Kuan Erisher even blew up the alchemy furnace in his hand. The other party did not show any mercy at all. This was completely to humiliate Kuan Erisher. Not only that, the guy in front of him secretly injected a few hidden forces into Kuan Arashi's body. It was this hidden force that caused Kuan Erisher to suffer such a serious injury. Be careful of this person. His flame is very strong. With great difficulty, Lan Kuan finally managed to squeeze out these words. After listening to Kuan Arashi's words, Li Zongjio gestured with his hands. Kuan Erisher was using the residual sun flame, which he had refined some time ago. Although it had only been a short time, Kuan Erisher was already quite proficient in it. No matter how bad the residual sun flame was, it shouldn't have failed so thoroughly. Therefore, the power of the other party's flame must be very strong. It couldn't be underestimated. I will pay him back tenfold for what he did to you. Li Zongjio's tone was calm. Those who didn't know him would think that Li Zongjio was acting tough. However, those who were familiar with Li Zongjio knew that Li Zongjio was really angry. When Lan Kuan faced the other party, he felt an extremely strong sense of oppression. In fact, in just a few minutes, he was already suppressed by the other party. Then he was directly detonated by the other party, causing him to be seriously injured. He knew that the other party had launched a sneak attack on him, but he had no way to resist or evade. Let's compete in fire suppression. Let's start. Dong Yangbai didn't care about what Li Zongjio was competing in. Anyway, as long as he stood in the arena, he wouldn't be able to walk away safely. He didn't know that Li Zongjio was also thinking the same. Boom! Dong Yangbai once again took out his medicine cauldron. It was a blue medicine cauldron. Sky blue reverent cauldron. The corners of Dong Yangbai's mouth curled into a sneer. It was said that the celestial blue reverend cauldron was left behind by an ancient sovereign expert when he was refining pills. Now that it had fallen into Dong Yangbai's hands, it showed his strength and talent. Otherwise, why would the Eastern Medicine clan give such a precious item to Dong Yangbai? This guy is showing off again. Dong Xiaobai said disdainfully when she saw this scene from below the arena. This guy really likes to show off. Showing off. Li Zongjio took out the Azura cauldron, which also landed on the ground with a boom. From the outside, the Azura cauldron was extremely low-key. Moreover, it was thinner than the sky blue reverent cauldron. However, Dong Yangbai frowned. The moment the Azura cauldron appeared, the surroundings were filled with a faint killing intent. Chapter 8:15. Of course, the people below the stage couldn't feel it, but the people on the stage naturally felt the deterrence of Li Zongjio's Azura cauldron. However, Dong Yangbai was still extremely confident in himself. The cauldron in his hand was a treasure passed down from his ancestors. To be able to obtain it, one needed to have the corresponding strength. As for the cauldron in Li Zongjiu's hand, he knew at a glance that it must have come from some crooked ways. There was no need to worry about it. Come on. The cauldron was one aspect, but the flame was also very important. Poison, torment, true scripture. The two of them sat on the ground. Dong Yangbai took the lead and slapped Li Zongjiu's Azura cauldron. Obviously, Dong Yangbai's main strategy was to attack. Only offense was the best defense. When the energy poured into the Azura cauldron, a flame suddenly appeared in Li Zongjiu's Azura cauldron. The flame constantly collided with the Azura cauldron. Poison, torment, true fire. Dong Yangbai's eyes flashed with a cold light. Although the cultivation of this primordial flame was born within the body, it also consumed a lot of natural treasures. In order to birth this flame within his body, it could be said that he had gone through a lot of hardships. If one wanted to stand out in such a big family, one must be ruthless to oneself. Only by being ruthless to oneself could one become a real expert. Otherwise, one would only be trampled under others' feet. Being born in a big family was never a very lucky thing. Dong Yangbai was an expert who stepped on the bones of geniuses of the same age. In front of Dong Yangbai, nothing could stop him. At the very least, this was what almost everyone was thinking. When Dong Yangbai's poison torment true fire occupied Li Zongjiu's Azura cauldron, Kuan Arashi's eyes widened when he saw this scene. This guy can control the flame in the cauldron to attack. His method is very strange. Moreover, the cauldron can turn into a highly poisonous object. Kuan Arashir exclaimed. He didn't even have time to remind Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu also placed his palm on it, allowing the flames and poison to enter his body. He saw that Li Zongjiu did not attack, but only focused on defense. Absorbing the flame into one's body was an extremely risky action. Of course, it was only possible to absorb the energy into one's body in order to relieve the pressure in the cauldron in a very desperate situation. Li Zongjiu had used such a method the moment he came up. It was obvious that he was trying to find a reason for himself to die faster. When the rest of the people saw Li Zongjiu's behavior, they were clearly amateurs. Or rather, they were so frightened by the person in front of them that they didn't know how to deal with such a situation. I thought this Li Zongjiu had some ability. It seems that he is also a short-lived ghost. He panicked when faced with a little pressure. I'm afraid he can't withstand it with this kind of endurance. Some people couldn't help but shake their heads. They felt very sorry for Li Zongjiu's inexperience. In this kind of battlefield, a small mistake was enough to turn you into ashes. What else could you do? Dong Yangbai originally thought the same, but after a few seconds, he completely changed his mind. The tormenting true fire in his body was constantly spreading from the Azura cauldron into Li Zongjiu's body. No matter how much energy there was, it was all absorbed by Li Zongjiu. When his own flame entered Li Zongjiu's body, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no movement at all. It was directly absorbed by Li Zongjiu just like that. How is this possible? Is there no limit to this guy's body? He looked at Li Zongjiu, who was still expressionless. The only thing that changed was his robe swaying due to the fluctuation of yuan qi. Other than that, there was nothing wrong with him. Is this all you've got? Li Zongjiu looked at Dong Yangbai in front of him. At this moment, Dong Yangbai saw one thing in Li Zongjiu's eyes. It was contempt. This was a kind of extreme contempt. It was a look that didn't put Dong Yangbai in his eyes at all. Dong Yangbai had once looked up at a person, and his memory of this gaze was very clear. However, he hadn't seen such a gaze for a long time after he became successful. Now, this gaze was repeated on Li Zongjiu's body. Dong Yangbai was naturally furious. Oh no, Dong Yangbai is angry. Dong Xiubai said softly when she saw that Dong Yangbai's eyes had become radical. Based on her understanding of Dong Yangbai, although the latter looked frivolous, in fact, it was very difficult to provoke him. Dong Yangbai even had full confidence in doing anything he wanted. But now, his eyes changed so quickly. He was obviously angered by Li Zongjiu. Then, one could feel that Dong Yangbai's aura had soared. At this moment, it seemed that the world had also felt the throbbing of the power of the wind and clouds. Boom! The domineering power seemed to be drawn from the boundless sky. There seemed to be a surge of energy around Dong Yangbai's body. A huge black tiger covered in flames placed its claws on Dong Yangbai's body. Then, the tiger's figure slowly emerged. A tiger roar sounded. The black tiger's appearance was full of majesty. It had an aura that could devour the world. With a gentle sweep of the tiger's tail, a heat wave swept across like a hurricane, rolling up a frenzy on the ground. Boom! Dong Yangbai had already decided to get rid of Li Zongjio as quickly as possible, to avoid any more trouble. Subduing Flame Tiger? When Li Zongjio saw the power of Dong Yangbai's original soul, he was shocked. This was because the hidden Flame Tiger itself was very powerful. It was not easy to obtain such a primordial spirit. Furthermore, after a long period of cultivation, the hidden Flame Tiger could also reach the peak of the Type 6 realm. It was equivalent to a peak primitive Emperor expert. Therefore, the quality of the subduing Flame Tiger was very strong. Hearing Li Zongjio say the name of the subduing Flame Tiger, Dong Yangbai was surprised and proud. It seemed that Li Zongjio was not a frog at the bottom of the well. In this case, he could clearly understand the power of the subduing Flame Tiger. Since you know, then you can be considered to have died with a clear understanding. The subduing Flame Tiger jumped onto the Azura cauldron. Then, as it trembled, a terrifying flame surged into Li Zongjio's Azura cauldron. Boom! Chapter 8:16. Within Li Zongjio's Azura cauldron, there seemed to be a heat wave surging, like a tsunami of flames. However, the Azura cauldron did not move at all, standing firmly in its original position. At the same time, all the energy was rushing towards Li Zongjio's body. Li Zongjio's expression did not change, sitting steadily like a mountain. However, as the power of the subduing Flame Tiger surged into Li Zongjio's body started to turn red. It looked like a piece of red-hot iron. Seeing Li Zongjio's body turn red, everyone was on tenterhooks. Was Li Zongjio going to explode like a watermelon? Wouldn't that be too bloody? Dong Yangbai seemed to have seen a glimmer of hope as he increased the energy in his body again. He did not hesitate to release it. Ancient golden tyrannical body technique. At this moment, Li Zongjio was also madly circulating the primordial body technique. His originally red body gradually stabilized at this moment, and the color of his skin also returned to normal. How is this possible? What is this guy's body made of? Li Zongjio's body was like a bottomless pit, constantly devouring the torturous true flame. Moreover, it seemed like he was not satisfied yet. If not for Dong Yangbai's profound strength, he would have been sucked dry by Li Zongjio. At this moment, Li Zongjio seemed to be really dissatisfied with the current situation. Is this all you have? No wonder you're just a piece of trash your whole life. Li Zongjio's voice was like thousands of silver needles piercing Dong Yangbai's ears, piercing into the depths of his soul, making Dong Yangbai furious. Unfortunately, now was not the time for Dong Yangbai to show off, because Li Zongjio already knew the ins and outs of Dong Yangbai. He had even given Dong Yangbai enough time and opportunity to show off. It was all because he was too weak. Absorb! A terrifying suction force came from Li Zongjio's body. It sucked Dong Yangbai's energy into his body. This was equivalent to directly stripping energy from Dong Yangbai's body. Even if Dong Yangbai wanted to withdraw his hand, it was already firmly sucked in. Not good. Dong Yangbai seems to be at a disadvantage. Dong Hanshan's expression turned ugly when he saw Dong Yangbai. He was no longer the one taking the initiative to transfer the flames into Dong Yangbai's body. Instead, Dong Yangbai was forced to be absorbed by Li Zongjio. The Eastern Frost Mountain had never expected anyone to be able to do such a thing. However, seeing that Dong Yangbai had fallen into such a predicament, Li Zongjio was indeed quite capable. Don't worry, that guy hasn't used his ultimate move yet. Dong Xiubai calmed down. After all, Dong Yangbai was a genius of the Dong Yao clan. It wouldn't be easy for such a small setback to knock him down. If it was really that easy, the Dong Yao clan wouldn't have become one of the 4 great clans of the Xingwu continent. Dong Yangbai felt that Li Zongjiu's motive was to suck him dry. Did he really think that the people of the Dong Yao clan were pushovers? Alright, since you want to challenge me, come on. Dong Yangbai growled and placed both his palms on the Azura cauldron. Boom! The entire Azura cauldron shook, and a crack spread directly in front of Li Zongjiu. At the same time, an even more tyrannical force poured into the Azura cauldron from Dong Yangbai's right hand. Dong Yangbai had been resisting with his left hand before, but when he placed his right hand on the cauldron, he immediately felt a violent force surging out. The force was 10 times stronger than before. Even the subduing flame tiger was excited at this moment. It growled and unfolded a pair of flaming wings on its back. As the pair of flaming wings flapped, the clouds in the sky were directly burned by the energy and dyed red by the flames. Something's wrong with my right hand. Li Zongjiu also felt some pressure at this moment. The surging power caused Li Zongjiu's body to involuntarily release a golden light. With the appearance of the golden light, Li Zongjiu's defense suddenly increased. However, this was an accident. Li Zongjiu didn't expect his opponent's explosive power to be so strong. If it weren't for the golden light protecting his body, he would have been swallowed by the power and sent flying. Did you seal the power inside? It seems like you have a lot of tricks up your sleeve. Li Zongjiu looked at Dong Yangbai calmly. Li Zongjiu's calm expression immediately set off a storm in Dong Yangbai's heart. Why was he still unable to kill Li Zongjiu after using the raging flame Qilin arm? This Li Zongjiu is too resistant to beatings. What is this thing? Since you've used up all your tricks, it's time for you to taste mine. Li Zongjiu wasn't here to watch your performance. He was here to teach you a lesson. Immediately, the Azura cauldron trembled. Suddenly, a black light was released from the Azura cauldron. A black figure covered in blood, holding a long scythe, descended like the god of death. Beneath his feet were flames. These flames were the tormenting true fire, but they couldn't get close to him. It was an artifact spirit. When the crowd saw the black figure appear, they all exclaimed one after another. This was because the black figure belonged to the Azura cauldron's artifact spirit. The appearance of the artifact spirit immediately brought an extremely shocking performance to these people. This cauldron actually has an artifact spirit. What a powerful artifact spirit! It's even more powerful than an origin spirit. Some people exclaimed when they saw the power of the Azura. A cauldron with an artifact spirit would be able to cultivate twice the results with half the effort. However, this artifact spirit didn't seem to be very good at assisting in alchemy. When the artifact spirit appeared, the long scythe in his hand slashed downwards. Boom! The subduing flame tiger was instantly struck by the Azura's scythe, and one of its wings turned into ashes. Boom! The Azura leaped and rushed towards Dong Yangbai. This move immediately made Dong Yangbai feel immense pressure. Even so, Li Zongjiu didn't violate any rules. The scythe in the Azura's hand slashed towards Dong Yangbai. Chapter 8:17. Azura's sudden attack was beyond Dong Yangbai's expectations. He did not even know how the cauldron was able to give birth to an artifact spirit. Even if there really was an artifact spirit, it should have been destroyed by his tormenting true fire. It should have been under his control. How could it break out so quickly? The tormenting true fire in his body automatically protected him. However, the Azura's movements were very big. He continuously chopped down with his blade without the slightest bit of hesitation. Dong Yangbai was almost unable to withstand the continuous fierce attacks. Subduing flame tiger! Dong Yangbai roared. However, in the next moment, the subduing flame tiger was sent flying by the Azura cauldron. With a loud bang, the Azura cauldron caught the subduing flame tiger. When Li Zongjiu caught the subduing flame tiger, the Azura cauldron caught the subduing flame tiger. Dong Yangbai instinctively sensed that something was wrong. A sense of crisis rose in his heart. Oh no! In the next moment, Dong Yangbai immediately retracted his energy. The subduing flame tiger was being roasted by the terrifying flames in the Azura cauldron. Boom! The subduing flame tiger kept hitting the Azura cauldron with its claws, producing loud bangs. The subduing flame tiger seemed to be in extreme pain. The subduing flame tiger was being roasted alive. Some people even felt sorry for the subduing flame tiger when they heard its tragic cries. Dong Yangbai was nervous as well. However, there was nothing he could do. He could only watch the Fu Yen tiger suffer in agony. Li Zongjio, you're courting death. Dong Yangbai used his blazing Qilin arm to pinch Azura in front of him. In an instant, the Azura cauldron's body exploded. The ferocity in his eyes and his aura surged. He wanted to use his true strength. Even if he had to use his Yuan energy, he wanted to cripple Li Zongjio. How could he torture his original spirit? Even if Dong Yangbai wanted to take back his subduing flame tiger, it would be impossible. Lunar stupa, endless torment. Dong Yangbai angrily roared as the flames around him gathered like a storm. Extremely terrifying power condensed, and a powerful ring of fire appeared around Dong Yangbai's body. Immediately, Dong Yangbai's eyes turned sharp. You're courting death. In Dong Yangbai's eyes, Li Zongjio, who came from the mortal world, had thoroughly angered him, the young master of the high and mighty Dong Yangbai. An expert like him was born to be above others. It was not up to a mere mortal to tell him what to do. Right now, such an aura was spreading out. As expected of someone from the clan of Eastern Medicine. When Wu Qingfeng saw Dong Yangbai's imposing aura, he became serious. Under such an imposing aura, the surrounding people were overshadowed. Even the aura of all the people present couldn't compare to Dong Yangbai's aura. From this, one could see how strong Dong Yangbai was. Even if this guy were to fight all of them alone, it wouldn't be a problem. You think you're so capable? Li Zongjio stretched out his hand and waved. Immediately, a black cloud emerged above Black Horse Town. Following the appearance of the dark clouds, the surrounding temperature rose abruptly. At this moment, it was as if a huge volcano was floating above their heads. Mountain of obsidian fire. Li Zongjio turned the obsidian fire in his hand into a huge mountain of flames. The terrifying aura that Dong Yangbai had displayed before also disappeared at this moment. This was because Dong Yangbai's aura seemed so weak compared to Li Zongjio's aura. Boom! The mountain of obsidian fire fell directly towards Dong Yangbai. You're just a facade. Dong Yangbai pushed with both hands, and the huge ring of fire around him was pushed out and shrouded upwards. Bang! However, Dong Yangbai's power appeared to be very weak. Just by getting close to the mountain of obsidian fire, it began to collapse. After that, the volcano fell straight down and directly pressed Dong Yangbai's sky blue imperial cauldron under it. Dong Yangbai looked at his sky blue imperial cauldron in horror. Impossible! In the next moment, a crack appeared on the sky blue imperial cauldron. As the power increased, a terrifying crack immediately appeared on the sky blue imperial cauldron. Bang! 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 The sky blue imperial cauldron was blown to pieces. At the same time, a muffled sound came from the Azura cauldron. Then, a black smoke spread out from the Azura cauldron, but the Azura cauldron itself was unscathed. Puff! Dong Yangbai spat out a mouthful of blood, and then his body suddenly flew out of the arena. Li Zongjio's finger moved slightly and immediately pulled a fragment of the sky blue imperial cauldron towards Dong Yangbai. Presumptuous! Dong Hanshan saw Li Zongjio's little trick and immediately rushed towards Dong Yangbai. Now that they were outside, he represented the reputation and face of the Eastern Medicine clan. How could he just watch Dong Yangbai be crippled? After shattering the fragment that was rushing towards Dong Yangbai with a palm, Dong Hanshan glared at Li Zongjio in front of him. You actually want to kill me to silence me? How cruel of you! Today, the Eastern Medicine clan will not let you go. Dong Hanshan pointed at Li Zongjio and said coldly, You talk too much. The mountain of flames did not dissipate, and it continued to press down on Dong Hanshan. Dong Hanshan felt that Li Zongjio had no intention of stopping and was shocked. However, he did not stop what he was doing. Immediately, a Vajra fan appeared in Dong Hanshan's hand. With a slight sway, an incomparably cold gust of wind rushed towards the flaming mountain. Boom! However, it was to no avail. the Eastern Frost Mountain was instantly crushed by the power of the mountain of obsidian fire. His entire body was sent flying, and the ground beneath his feet cracked from the impact. Puff! Dong Hanshan's body also flew backwards and landed on the ground. Dong Xiaobai stretched out her hand and beckoned, pulling the two of them behind her. However, when Dong Yangbai's body was in the air, he seemed to feel a force tearing at him. Rip! Dong Yangbai immediately woke up from the intense pain. His right hand was forcibly torn off. Blood splattered on the ground, and this arm was directly wrapped by the obsidian flames and burned to ashes. So what if you are one of the 4 great clans of the continent? Even if you are the emperor, you can forget about stepping on Li Zongjiu's head. If you are wrong, you will have to pay the price. Chapter 8:18. Dong Xiaobai could only watch as Dong Yangbai's arm was torn off by Li Zongjiu. Moreover, the Eastern Frost Mountain was closer, so he could see it more clearly. Dong Yangbai's arm had been torn off so easily. There was a powerful force sealed in Dong Yangbai's right hand. Now that his arm had been torn off, the force naturally no longer existed. When Dong Yangbai woke up and realized that his arm had been cut off by Li Zongjiu, he couldn't bear such a blow. He covered his severed arm and stared at Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu, I, Dong Yangbai, will fight you to the death. Dong Yangbai roared. Li Zongjiu frowned when he saw the look in Dong Yangbai's eyes. His expression turned frosty. Oh, then you shall die. Li Zongjiu immediately leaped from the arena and rushed towards Dong Yangbai without any hesitation. Wait! Dong Xiaobai saw Li Zongjiu attack again. She obviously knew that these people were no match for Li Zongjiu. Dong Yangbai had completely angered Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had killed countless people. It didn't matter if he killed one more or one less. Since this was a situation where he would fight to the death, there was no need to leave anyone alive. Li Zongjiu was fearless when he saw Dong Xiaobai standing in front of him. So what if a woman was in his way? Naturally, he could easily get rid of her. However, an item appeared in Dong Xiaobai's hand. Li Zongjiu's eyes were like torches. When he saw the item, his killing intent gradually disappeared. My Dongyao clan was in the wrong for what happened today. This token can be exchanged for your life. In a moment of desperation, Dong Xiaobai had no choice but to withdraw the defensive treasure. It was a command token that was only the size of a thumb. Anyone who had some experience in Jianghu would have heard of this token, but never seen it. After all, only the top clans of the continent could take out something like that. As for the value of this item, only those who had experienced it would know just how valuable it was. To these colossal families, this item symbolized their family's reputation, and they would use their family's reputation in exchange for their lives. The name of this item was the thumb token. It was also known as a contract order. The person who possessed the command of the thumb was indebted to the clan. At the same time, it was a life-saving item. If the person possessed the command of the thumb, the clans in the continent would not be enemies with them. In fact, they could even ask the clan with the command of the thumb to do something within their power. Li Zongjiu reached out and took the thumbs-up token. Eastern Blue's contract order? Who are you in Eastern Heavens? Looking at the contract token in his hand, Li Zongjiu frowned as he looked at the woman before him. You know my great-grandfather? Dong Xiaobai looked at Li Zongjiu in shock. In fact, the true meaning of the command of the thumb wasn't that of a clan, because that wasn't very specific. To be able to take out the command of the thumb meant that there was a sovereign realm expert among them. What it represented was the promise of a supreme being expert. Thus, one could imagine the weight of this token. This was the reason why Li Zongjiu stopped. Li Zongjiu naturally couldn't offend a sovereign realm expert. Otherwise, even the Heavenly Pill Pavilion and the Shengyan dynasty wouldn't be able to protect Li Zongjiu. If he were to face a sovereign realm expert now, it would be difficult for Li Zongjiu to escape. When Li Zongjiu became a sovereign realm expert in the future, he had crossed paths with Eastern Blue. In the beginning, Eastern Blue was also quite arrogant, but he was gradually overtaken by Li Zongjiu. Eastern Blue's strength was only average in the sovereign realm. In his previous life, Li Zongjio was in existence at the peak of the sovereign realm. The gap between them could be imagined. It was even more terrifying. Li Zongjio still couldn't face the threat of a sovereign realm expert at the current stage. Of course, such ordinary matters didn't necessarily require the help of a sovereign realm expert. If every matter required the help of a sovereign realm expert, then this sovereign realm expert was too weak. With just a word, the Eastern Medicine clan would mobilize the entire clan to deal with Li Zongjio. This time I'll give him face. Li Zongjio withdrew his hand. At the same time, he threw out the thumb token in his hand. Dong Xiaobai caught the thumb token in her hand and looked at Li Zongjio in front of her. Her eyes were filled with shock. Since Li Zongjio could call out Eastern Blue's name, he must know the true meaning of this item. But now, Li Zongjio actually returned such an important item. Looking at Li Zongjio's eyes, it seemed that he really didn't care about this item. He clearly knew the value of this item in his hand, but he still returned it. It could be seen that Li Zongjio's strength was really unfathomable. Now that the two of them were seriously injured, Dong Xiaobai naturally couldn't stay here for long. She immediately left with the two of them. Wu Qingfeng also quickly sent people to pick them up. No one had expected that this matter would end up like this. Wu Qingfeng was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. He never thought that Li Zongjio's strength was so strong. Even the people of the Dongyao clan were no match for Li Zongjio. They were all easily defeated, and that guy was even seriously injured. If Li Zongjio really killed Dong Yangbai, Wu Qingfeng's future would be bleak. Naturally, Wu Qingfeng would not have a good time in the future. He would not be able to escape the responsibility of the Eastern Medicine clan. When Feng Tengfei saw Li Zongjio defeat Dong Yangbai, he was happy. But when he saw that Li Zongjio wanted to kill Dong Yangbai as well, he couldn't sit still. If he really killed Dong Yangbai, Feng Tengfei's fate wouldn't be any better. In front of the Dongyao clan, who cared about right or wrong? If one of them got into trouble, everyone would have to suffer together. This was the benefit of having great strength. Right or wrong didn't matter. Strength was what really mattered. The people of the Dark Horse Elixir Association didn't dare to provoke Li Zongjio. The scene today was very grand. Li Zongjio had defeated the two geniuses of the Eastern Medicine clan all by himself. No one would dare to believe it if they were in his shoes. And no one present could think that they were Li Zongjio's opponent. After that, in the Dark Horse Elixir Association, the rest of the competition directly became a foil, no longer dazzling. Just based on the 30 stalks of Tier 6 spiritual herbs that Li Zongjio had just won, it was enough to secure his position as the champion. Chapter 8:19. In the next 2 days, Li Zongjio did not need to appear. With this great god around, who could easily take someone's life, how many people dared to face Li Zongjio head-on? These people even deliberately forgot about Li Zongjio for the time being. They did not want to think of this terrifying demon. Even Wu Qingfeng and the others were already well aware of each other. In this Dark Horse Elixir meeting, the biggest winner was naturally the 100 Medicine Pavilion. Feng Tengfei had made a great contribution this time, so his heart was naturally very happy. Although Li Zongjio had cut off an arm of the Dongyao family, this was not a big deal. After all, the reputation of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion was here. It was not something that could be easily manipulated. The bigger the family, the more they would pay attention to their own reputation and integrity. They would not be too embarrassed, not to mention that this was done openly in the arena. No one could find any fault with it. Therefore, there was no need to worry too much. The 100 Medicine Pavilion took the initiative to send 56 grade medicinal herbs to Li Zongjio. Not to mention Li Zongjio's contribution today, which created such good conditions for the 100 Medicine Pavilion in the future. Just Li Zongjio's strength and potential were here. Of course, it was a great sin. Now that there was such a good opportunity, it was natural to establish a good relationship with Li Zongjio. Naturally, Li Zongjio didn't need to be polite. The next elixir that he was going to refine basically required a large number of grade 6 elixirs. To be honest, in the previous life, Li Zongjio began to study alchemy after he became famous. In the beginning, the things that he used to practice were all 5th grade and 6th grade medicinal herbs. Li Zongjio had never touched some low-grade medicinal herbs. Fortunately, Li Zongjio cared more about this basic skill, so he had a good understanding of these low-grade medicinal herbs. In the next 2 days, Li Zongjio did not have to appear at all to destroy the balance of the Dark Horse Elixir meeting. This way, it was even easier. Every day, he cultivated in the cultivation room. As for Lan Kuan, he was directly thrown into the Dark Horse pill gathering by Li Zongjio. Lan Kuan was given the opportunity to roam around. It could be said that every battle was unusually intense, causing Lan Kuan to feel exhausted. However, it was this strong pressure that made Kuan Erasure grow rapidly in the Dark Horse Elixir meeting. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that refining pills could be so fucking tiring. Lan Kuan had never thought that the competition between alchemists would actually have such a method. It was simply a variety of methods. Although most of them evolved from basic skills, Lan Kuan was aware of the importance of these basic skills. He had to lay a solid foundation. Only then could he go further on the road of alchemy. Li Yun also stayed in the room for a few days. Sometimes she did not even have time to eat. Li Zongjio also took the initiative to send some low-grade primordial stones to Li Yun so that she could improve in the process of the experiment. After all, Li Zongjio had no way to guide Li Yun on the formation. However, the primordial stones used to support Li Yun's cultivation were a lot. Just take it. He did not dare to say anything else, but the primordial stones were definitely enough. On the 3rd day, the Dark Horse Elixir meeting had basically come to an end. Although some veteran experts had been killed by Li Zongjio, such as Qian Kuan, one of the 2 most threatening Crimson Cloud 5 saints, Alchemy Saint still had another person. After getting rid of these 2 people, this year's Dark Horse Elixir meeting had a lot of newcomers. Kuan Erasure also relied on his own strength to decisively enter the top 5. His ranking was even higher than Old Mo's. Old Mo also had a head-on fight with Kuan Erasure. However, he found that this young man looked immature, but after a few days, the speed of his growth could be described as terrifying. This guy's learning ability and perseverance were also very strong. In the end, Kuan Erasure won. Old Mo was also convinced of his loss. The first place was naturally Li Zongjio. The second place was Dong Xiubai of the Eastern Medicine Clan. Dong Xiubai did not take the initiative to challenge Li Zongjio. After all, Dong Xiubai also knew about Li Zongjio's strength and did not dare to act rashly. However, the clan naturally had to complete the task entrusted by the people of 10 Direction Medicine Hall. After Dong Xiubai defeated all the experts present, he left immediately. He didn't even give these people a chance to meet and search for him. Even Wu Qingfeng couldn't find these people. He had to at least express his gratitude. Wasn't it a little too fast for him to leave? He had no choice but to leave. It was extremely humiliating to stay. The 2 of them were defeated by Li Zongjio even though they joined forces. Of course, it was extremely humiliating. The 3rd place was an expert invited by the 10,000 Spirits Immortal Shop. Without any suspense, he was defeated by Dong Xiubai. However, the rest of the people were not his opponent. It was said that this person was very low-key. He was a hidden expert from a small city. He had not easily exposed his strength for many years. Now that he showed his strength, it was also amazing. However, this glory was also suppressed by Li Zongjio and Dong Xiubai. The 4th place was also a native expert of Qiyun State. He was also a frequent guest of the Dark Horse Alchemy Assembly. In the past, he could easily enter the top 3, but this time, he could not. As for the people in front of him, he didn't dare to casually say the word challenge. This alchemy assembly also led to the emergence of many elixirs. Next was the 7-day free trade market. The 6th grade elixirs or some other things that you obtained could be sold. At the same time, you could also buy a lot of things. Young Master, Wu Qingfeng of 10 Direction Medicine Hall requests to see you. Tian Fei came to report. Wu Qingfeng represented 10 Direction Medicine Hall. Naturally, there would be more exchanges in the future. Let him in. Li Zongjio said. As soon as Wu Qingfeng entered, He cupped his hands to Li Zongjio. Congratulations, elderly. You have won the first place of this Dark Horse Alchemy Assembly. Hearing Wu Qingfeng's words, Li Zongjio did not show much expression. Wu Qingfeng also knew that Li Zongjio was not a polite person. Immediately, he took out a metal box from his arms. Looking at the carvings on the outside, it was obviously a very precious thing. Mysterious yellow iron? When Li Zongjio saw this box, he had a guess in his heart. There was only one thing that could be suppressed by the heaven and earth qi. Previously, I heard that Elder Li was looking for the drunken dream flower. I looked around and finally found one. Elder Li, would you like to have a look? Chapter 8:20. Li Zongjio opened the box. Immediately, a dreamy aura filled the entire room. If it weren't for the fact that the two of them had a strong mental fortitude, they would have been swallowed by the dreamy aura when the radiance appeared. The two of them stabilized their minds. The main reason was that Li Zongjio's mental energy was able to suppress the drunken life flower. The latter couldn't move at all. Otherwise, with Wu Qingfeng's strength, it would have been difficult for him to suppress the drunken life flower. He would have been more or less affected. In order to obtain this item, Wu Qingfeng had spent a lot of effort to obtain this flower. In the face of someone like Li Zongjio, if he wanted to rope him in, he had to choose this point no matter what. If he couldn't, then everything would be useless. Seeing Li Zongjio's expression, Wu Qingfeng knew that he had made the right choice this time. Li Zongjio was very satisfied. I'll accept this item. If there's anything, Hall Master Wu can just say it. Li Zongjio's expression changed very quickly. After all, this item was exactly what Li Zongjio wanted. What else could he do? Elder Li's words are too serious. Our 10 Directions Medicine Hall has a wide range of alchemists. Elder Li is so young and promising. Naturally, 10 Directions Medicine Hall wants to make friends with you. If Elder Li needs anything in the future, you can come directly to 10 Directions Medicine Hall to look for me. Wu Qingfeng hurriedly said. To 10 Directions Medicine Hall, this kind of statement was like giving an indefinite guarantee. Although they said that they didn't need any help, they might come looking for them in the future. Li Zongjio also knew Wu Qingfeng's intentions. However, now that he had obtained the drunken life flower, he was in a happy state. Naturally, he didn't want to argue with this fellow. Well said. If there's anything your 10 Directions Medicine Hall can't handle in the future, just come and look for me. Li Zongjio also said something. In the ears of ordinary people, these words were simply arrogant and boundless. What did he mean by something that the 10 Directions Medicine Hall couldn't handle? Could it be that a mere Li Zongjio was more powerful than the 10 Directions Medicine Hall? However, Wu Qingfeng listened attentively. Instead, when he heard these words, a smile appeared on his face. It was hard to imagine that the Vice Hall Master of the 10 Direction Medicine Hall could still laugh after hearing such words. Ordinary people didn't know the power Li Zongjio possessed, but Wu Qingfeng couldn't be more clear about it. With Li Zongjio's ability, he was already so powerful now. In the future, he would be even more powerful. As long as Li Zongjio was still alive, his achievements would be limitless. Of course. I still have some follow-up matters to deal with, so I won't disturb Elder Li. Wu Qingfeng immediately excused himself. After all, Li Zongjio was now in a state of excitement. In the current situation, he wouldn't care about Wu Qingfeng. Wu Qingfeng had done a very good job in this aspect. He had never been tactless. Tianfei, see him out. Li Zongjio shouted. After all, he was quite satisfied with Wu Qingfeng, so he had to give the latter some face. After Wu Qingfeng's investigation, he also found out that Tianfei's background wasn't simple. Now that he was able to stand beside Li Zongjio, it could be seen that Li Zongjio's strength wasn't simple. There was only Li Zongjio in the room. This is the drunken dream flower. Since you brought it out from such a place, I'd like to see what's so special about you. Immediately, Li Zongjio took out the drunken dream flower from the mysterious yellow iron box. Immediately, the drunken dream flower's power seemed to be revived, and it directly enveloped Li Zongjio. An overwhelming feeling of darkness came over him. Boom! At this moment, Li Zongjio couldn't even stand firmly on his feet. He only felt that his head was fiercely bombarded. After stabilizing his body, there was a moment of blurriness in his eyes. At this moment, Li Zongjio seemed to be trapped in chaos, and it wasn't easy for him to stabilize his body. White God Fu. Li Zongjio silently chanted the White God Fu in his heart. The White Dragon original spirit appeared and helped Li Zongjio to stabilize his body. The surrounding scene was filled with white light. This situation seemed to be a terrifying illusion. What a terrifying mental energy pressure. Li Zongjio was also surprised. However, he quickly found a new cultivation method. Immediately, he approached the drunken dream flower and concentrated the energy of this thing on his body. It formed a state of cultivation. Li Zongjio's strength slowly increased under the pressure of the drunken dream flower. Buzz. His mental state was also constantly increasing. Ardent Earth Sect. The attack on Ardent Earth Sect was not announced to the public. Of course, such a matter would be covered up as much as possible. Back then, Li Zongjio's attack was very short. Therefore, this matter wasn't announced in a short period of time. However, within the Ardent Earth Sect, there were still many spies who came from other places. Very quickly, this news was leaked out. When the people outside heard about this, it directly caused a huge uproar. They never expected Li Zongjio to be so arrogant. After all, attacking the Ardent Earth Sect within the borders of the Qiyun region meant that they were still a force to be reckoned with. In just a short period of time, Li Zongjio's reputation increased by another fold. Within Ardent Earth Sect, there was an uproar because of Li Zongjio's matter. Due to the heavy casualties of the elders and the destruction of the book depository building, they couldn't tolerate Li Zongjio. Some people felt that such humiliation was simply unbearable. They had to do their best to kill Li Zongjio. Even if they had to pay a huge price, they had to do it. Otherwise, wouldn't these people's faces be completely lost? Some people also analyzed the situation carefully. Li Zongjio wasn't someone to be trifled with. After all, Li Zongjio was the one who killed the young sect master of Mystic Yuan sect. However, Li Zongjio was still alive and well. This meant that even Mystic Yuan sect couldn't do anything to Li Zongjio. As for the people that the Mystic Yuan sect couldn't handle, they had asked for help from the Ardent Earth sect. This was clearly a borrowed knife to kill someone. Moreover, Li Zongjio's identity was the honorary elder of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Who would dare to mess around? Boom! Just as the people in the meeting hall were discussing intensely, a violent explosion suddenly sounded from the back mountain of Ardent Earth Sect. Then, an aura soared into the sky. Sect Master is out. Everyone's face was filled with surprise. Chapter 821. With such a huge commotion, the Ardent Earth Sect was naturally aware of it. Many disciples even thought that someone had come to attack the sect again. However, they soon found out that their sect master had come out of seclusion. When the sect master of Ardent Earth Sect came out of seclusion, Xing Qianxiu heaved a sigh of relief. Without a doubt, the sect master was the main culprit of this matter. If not for the fact that the sect master had sent him a voice transmission to deal with Li Zongjio, things would not have turned out this way. Now, as the vice sect master, it was quite painful for him to stay in the sect. After all, he was the one who brought these people here. In the end, they destroyed 2 of the sect's buildings and caused heavy casualties. Many elders were also questioning him. What could he do? This matter wasn't what he wanted. Fortunately, the sect master had sent him a voice transmission. Now that the sect master had come out, all the pressure naturally shifted to the sect master. It had nothing to do with him anymore. The sect master of Ardent Earth Sect, Qin Lai. People called him Qin Zhuyang. This was because Qin Lai cultivated a set of Yuan arts called the 9 Suns Divine Art. When he used it, it was as if 9 resplendent suns were revolving around his body. Therefore, he was also called Qin Zhuyang or Lord Jiu. Qin Lai stepped into the air and stepped into the meeting hall. When Qin Lai's figure landed on the ground, he observed the situation around him. Qin Lai was also clear about the matters within the sect. When he came out of seclusion, he had already learned about it. However, at that time, Qin Lai was at the critical juncture of breaking through, so he could not directly appear. "Greetings, sect master." When Qin Lai entered the hall, the surrounding people immediately came forward to greet him. However, there were even more people whose eyes were filled with grief and indignation. Their lips were also trembling slightly. From the looks of it, it seemed as though they had just walked out from an extremely sorrowful state. "Sect master, I'm useless." Xing Qianxiu directly knelt in front of Qin Lai. Rather than wait for Qin Lai to question him, it was better for him to confess first. That Li Zongjio is extremely arrogant. Today, he also wants to leave the Qiyun prefecture. Qin Lai glanced at the people around him and said indifferently, "A mere Qilin battleship was enough to scare these people to such an extent. Such a sect was simply a bunch of trash gathered here." Therefore, Qin Lai had to use his own methods to keep Li Zongjio here. After all, the Mystic Yuan sect had sent a message that they must keep Li Zongjio within the Qiyun prefecture. If they could not do so, then as the sect master he would not have the slightest bit of face left. Qin Lai beckoned with his hand, and a terrifying aura swept over. The elders of the sect immediately followed after him. In total, there were more than 30 people. Li Zongjio had killed so many people from the Ardent Earth sect. How could they let Li Zongjio leave so easily? If he left safely, the Ardent Earth sect would no longer have any reputation to speak of. Black Horse Town. Li Zongjio was in possession of over 100 Tier 6 spirit herbs, which naturally attracted countless flies. Naturally, these alchemists did not have such strength. However, they were able to gather all the forces within the Qiyun prefecture. With the strength of these people, even a strong dragon could not suppress a snake in its own territory. No matter how strong one's individual strength was, one would still be able to feel the terror when facing such a terrifying opponent. Therefore, there were already many forces secretly gathering people. 20 miles outside of Black Horse Town, in a ruined temple. This was an earth temple. Unfortunately, it had long been ruined, and spider webs had already spread everywhere. Under the pitch-black night sky, there seemed to be a lot of faint lights coming from the earth temple. "I just received news that Li Zongjio will leave tonight. Wherever he passes, he will definitely pass by here. That kid has a battleship in his hands. Now listen to my orders." In the Earth Temple, a calm voice sounded. They were a group of professional robbers and bandits. Their business was usually concentrated after a certain event, and then they would aim at some teams with rich harvests. When the other party did not expect it, they would directly rush out and carry out the most fatal blow. Often, if they did such a thing, they would be able to go back and enjoy themselves for a long time. When the battleship passes by this area, directly release the Mixed Thunder Pearl. Use the power of the Mixed Thunder Pearl to temporarily cause the opponent's battleship to lose its power. If the battleship is destroyed, then these people are like tigers with their teeth pulled out. There was only a flickering candle in the ruined temple. However, in the darkness, there were at least 10 pairs of eyes staring here, all listening attentively. "Don't worry, no one has ever been able to escape from the hands of our roaring tiger gang." Someone grinned. Their many years of experience in winning battles had given these people quite a lot of confidence. "The opponent this time is not simple, don't be careless," the leader said in a deep voice. Their group was a group of ruthless people, but this Li Zongjio was also a very difficult guy to deal with. It was not easy to deal with him, so they could not be too careless. "Boss, the scouts in front have reported that Li Zongjio has left Black Horse Town and is heading towards us." A scout came to report, "Brothers, if we succeed in this mission, then we won't have to worry about the rest of our lives." The man with the code name Roaring Tiger said. The rest of the people also cried out one after another, displaying an extremely strong desire. In the distance, the Qilin battleship was slowly approaching. After the end of the Black Horse Elixir meeting, they had to return to Sacred Flame Imperial City. The disciples sent by the Li family should be arriving soon, so of course, they had to make proper arrangements. Moreover, Li Yun was also a very talented array master, so naturally, she could not be delayed. Li Zongjio also had to think carefully about which array master to guide Li Yun. After obtaining the Drunken Life Flower, There was no need to stay in Black Horse Town any longer. The people of the Roaring Tiger Gang were already on full alert. When they saw the Qilin battleship appear in their sight, they directly brought out all the people of the Roaring Tiger Gang. There were a total of 20 Yuan King level experts. With such a huge lineup, they believed that not many people would be able to stop them. It was estimated that even an Origin Emperor level expert would have to temporarily avoid them. These people did not only have the strength in their hands, but also some strange weapons and magic weapons. When Roaring Tiger saw that the Qilin battleship had entered the shooting range, he was about to give the order to attack, but suddenly he saw dozens of bright auras coming from further away. Chapter 8:22. Dozens of light beams surrounded Li Zongjiu's Qilin warship. Down below, Qi Hu and the others did not even dare to breathe loudly. He was afraid that these people would discover them. If they thought that they were in cahoots with Li Zongjiu, wouldn't their efforts be in vain? Isn't that the sect master of Ardent Earth sect? When they saw the figure in the sky, Shi Hu and the others trembled slightly. Only the sect master of Ardent Earth sect could release such a terrifying light. It was said that the sect master of the Ferocious Earth sect was in a state of seclusion. It seemed like Li Zongjiu had really angered the sect master of the Ferocious Earth sect. Hence, such a situation had occurred. Qin Lai and the others surrounded the Qilin warship in a mighty manner. Their eyes were cold. Xing Qianqiu was also very excited. When Li Zongjiu had caused such a scene, there was not a day that he did not think of cutting Li Zongjiu into pieces to restore his reputation. Li Zongjiu and the others were also surprised. They did not expect these people to chase after them directly. They were not afraid that the Qilin warship would crash into them and kill them. At first, Li Zongjiu did not know who the other party was. They had actually killed their way in. However, when Li Zongjiu saw Xing Qianqiu, he knew what was going on. "You guys are from Ardent Earth sect, right? You guys are really bold." Li Zongjiu and the others walked out of the cabin. Kuan Erisher and Tian Fei were also looking at the experts around them with cold eyes. All of them were Yuan Kings. If all of them attacked together, the threat they posed would be enormous. However, with the help of the Qilin battleship and the freakish Li Zongjiu, they might not necessarily be afraid of these people. When they saw Li Zongjiu appear, Xing Qianqiu pointed at Li Zongjiu and shouted, "Sect leader, this man is that damned Li Zongjiu." Qin Lai also looked at Li Zongjiu. One day, when he was in seclusion, Gong Wuliang of the Mystic Yuan sect sent a voice transmission to him, waking him up from his cultivation state. This directly broke his cultivation state. However, it wasn't like Qin Lai didn't gain anything. In addition to the order to kill Li Zongjiu, Gong Wuliang also brought him something that he couldn't refuse. A pill that would allow him to break through his current realm. It was also this pill that allowed Qin Lai's cultivation to break through. Otherwise, even if he continued to cultivate in seclusion for 10 or 20 years, it would be impossible for him to make a breakthrough. There was no doubt that it was such a good deal. After this breakthrough, Qin Lai's strength had also increased greatly. He didn't care about anyone in the world, so why would he care about a small Li Zongjiu? Li Zongjiu was just a flea blocking his path. "You must be Li Zongjiu. Kill yourself and I'll let the rest of you go." Qin Lai stood with his hands clasped behind his back, stepping on the void. The content of his words was extremely arrogant. Although Li Zongjiu often said this, no one would obediently commit suicide every time he said it. Therefore, he simply omitted this nonsense later on. What was interesting was that he actually heard such a sentence from the mouth of his enemy. The desolate heaven essence appeared in his hand. Li Zongjiu immediately leaped and charged towards Qin Lai. As his figure flew, the desolate heaven essence in his hand slashed down furiously. 9 suns opening. Qin Lai let out a loud roar, and his entire body was immediately covered in golden light. Every ray of golden light seemed to be a sharp golden sword that directly rushed towards Li Zongjiu. 9 suns opening. Suddenly, it was as if a real sun had appeared in the surroundings. It illuminated the surroundings. It scared Yu Hu and the others who were lying on the ground. They quickly buried their bodies in the ground. Otherwise, They would definitely be discovered under such a powerful light. If they were discovered by the people from the Ardent Earth sect, the consequences would be more troublesome. They might even have to go through a fierce battle. Everyone stay calm. Chi Hu shouted in a low voice. Under the strong light, some of his exposed skin seemed to have been scorched and was constantly emitting smoke. It was obvious how high the temperature was. Li Zongjio was the first to bear the brunt. However, when the light landed on his body, it didn't cause much damage to Li Zongjio. There was only a slight stinging sensation. Qin Lai was only a first-grade origin emperor. It wouldn't be easy for him to defeat Li Zongjio. Back then, when he faced King Qin Yuan, Li Zongjio still managed to withstand such a powerful expert. Furthermore, he even killed King Qin Yuan with his own hands. That would be meaningless. Clang, clang, clang. The desolate heaven essence broke through all obstacles and rushed towards Qin Lai. When Qin Lai saw Li Zongjio charging towards him, he naturally formed seals with both hands. Immediately, the surrounding golden light surged towards him and formed a golden cocoon. Boom! When Li Zongjio's staff smashed down, the golden light cocoon around Qin Lai's body instantly shattered with a loud bang. The strong vibrations instantly sent Qin Lai flying. Qin Lai's figure was sent flying backwards. He landed heavily on the ground. The terrifying vibrations spread out, causing Qin Lai to spit out a mouthful of blood. He never expected Li Zongjio's strength to be so domineering and powerful. It was unbelievable. After Qin Lai landed on the ground, Li Zongjio took a step forward. The desolate heaven essence in his hand smashed towards Qin Lai's head. No! Qin Lai roared. He wanted to stop the force in front of him. At the same time, his eyes were filled with fear. He knew Li Zongjio's strength and the destructive power of his staff. However, even though he wanted to beg for mercy, Li Zongjio didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. With a bang, Qin Lai's head was smashed into pieces. At the same time, a huge pit appeared where Qin Lai was, and the surrounding scars spread out. As the sect master, Qin Lai had truly broken through to the Origin Emperor realm. He was prepared to show off his prowess and bring glory to the sect. However, he didn't expect that he would be smashed to death by Li Zongjio's staff in the end. This was something he had never dreamed of. The scene was silent. Xing Qianxiu, who had stepped forward to accuse Li Zongjio, was also at a loss as to what to do. Should he run away now? However, the people around him didn't move. He didn't know what to do either. However, when Li Zongjio turned around and looked at him with a pair of vicious eyes, Xing Qianxiu knew that it was too late to escape now. Chapter 8:23. None of you will be leaving today. Li Zongjio leaped up and appeared in front of an elder from the ferocious earth sect. The desolate heaven essence in his hand was like a sharp sword as it pierced through the elder's chest. Fresh blood flowed out instantly. With a gentle twist, he pulled the elder's body back and tore it into two halves. Great Elder! Xing Qianxiu saw that the Great Elder had been dealt with by Li Zongjio in one move. The elder's body had been torn into two halves and there was no chance for him to start over. He could not escape even if he wanted to. He wanted Xing Qianxiu to understand that no one here would be able to escape today. Tian Fei also rushed out with the Tianxin sword in his hand. The sharp sword aura swept towards the two people beside him and forced them to retreat. Kuan Erasher also rushed out with the Kuan winged spear in his hand and faced one of them head-on. This was a real battle. The power in Kuan Erashi's hands was also very strong. Coupled with the mind power he had cultivated by Master Jingyue's side, it had allowed Kuan Erasher to break through to the Yuan monarch realm. In terms of talent, he was considered quite talented among many people. He had already surpassed many geniuses. The Qilin warship was also activated. The small cannons around the warship opened fire instantly, severely injuring the few Yuan monarchs who were blocking the Qilin warship. Boom, boom, boom. Instantly, flames soared into the sky. The desolate heaven essence in Li Zongjio's hand was like a pestle pounding garlic. Whoever it rushed in front of would have their heads smashed to smithereens. The killing on the battlefield was extremely fast. In the end, there were even two figures who panicked and fled into the distance. Li Zhongjiao threw a mountain-toppling golden seal at them and smashed them into meat paste. After a while, even the wails could no longer be heard. All that could be seen were corpses dripping with blood. The only person left standing in the ferocious earth sect was Xing Qianqiu. Xing Qianqiu was no fool. He knew that it was impossible for him to escape from the people in front of him. He could only stay where he was and live for a few more minutes. He had thought that there would be more variables, but when he saw these people take action, Xing Qianqiu had never expected that he would be able to save the last few minutes. The thing I regret the most in my life is offending you, Li Zhongjiao. Xing Qianqiu's throat was dry and there was no light in his eyes. When he looked at Li Zhongjiao, his heart was filled with despair. There was no longer any hope for him to live. But as for why he had offended Li Zhongjiao, it was all that damned Qin Lai's fault. If not for Qin Lai's orders, he would not have had to find trouble with Li Zhongjiao. He would have been doing well as the deputy sect master of the ferocious earth sect. In the end, Xing Qianqiu slapped his own head. His brain splattered dozens of meters away. You killed yourself pretty quickly. If you were a little later, you might not even have the chance to kill yourself. Li Zhongjiao put away the desolate heaven essence. When he boarded the Qilin battleship, he looked down slightly. Qi Hu, who was hiding underground, also clearly felt Li Zhongjiao's gaze. It was as cold as a blade and did not dare to move in the slightest, for fear that Li Zhongjiao would descend from the sky and kill them all. Soon, a whistling sound could be heard from the sky. Then, the Qilin warship disappeared into the night sky. Only then did Qi Hu and the others, who were lying on the ground, heave a sigh of relief. When he got up from the ground, he felt that his back was soaked in cold sweat. Too fucking terrifying. Naturally, these people had also seen the scene that had just happened. It was only 100 meters away from them, but such a bloody massacre had already taken place. Moreover, the target of the massacre was the strongest lineup of the Ardent Earth sect. Almost the entire Ardent Earth sect had come, but in less than 10 minutes, they had all been wiped out by their own targets. Not a single one of them was left alive. Even the deputy sect master of the ferocious earth sect had committed suicide on the spot. It was obvious how much pressure they had been under. The people who had killed the people of the ferocious earth sect were indeed the targets of Qi Hu and the others. They even wanted to rob them. Now that they thought about it, it was simply too stupid. If they had rushed out just now, their fate would have been worse than the people of the ferocious earth sect. Even the dozen people under them would not have been enough to kill Li Zhongjiao. That guy is too terrifying. Qi Hu had seen a lot of things, but he had never seen a person as ruthless as Li Zhongjiao. Li Zhongjiao had killed all these people in one go. Just the thought of it was terrifying. Fortunately, these people are our scapegoats. Let's retreat. They had unexpectedly encountered such a bizarre incident today. It was already considered good that they were not scared out of their wits. How could he dare to continue doing this? At the very least, he had to take a break. The next target had to be accurate information on these people. Otherwise, if he met another Li Zhongjiao, it would be a disaster. All of them did not need to live anymore. The robbery plan of this group of people had failed. However, the scene of the destruction of the ferocious earth sect was slowly spread out from these people's mouths. In the face of such a situation, such a heroic scene, there would always be a time when they would brag. It was normal for them to say all these things. Li Zhongjiao naturally discovered Qi Hu and the others. However, these people were just clowns. If they knew that they were going to die, they would just lie on the ground and not appear. Then, Li Zhongjiao would naturally let them go. However, if they were reckless and wanted to cause trouble, then Li Zhongjiao would not mind sending them to hell. The Qilin battleship only took 2 days to send them to the sacred Flame Royal City. They stopped in the distance. The few of them walked into the city. After not returning for a few months, the sacred Flame Royal City did not change at all. It was still bustling with noise and excitement. It was like a towering mountain that would never fall. No matter how strong the wind and waves below were, it could not shake its foundation. The sacred Flame Royal family is still here. No matter how big the waves below are, there is no movement. Chapter 8:24. In Sacred Flame Royal City. When Li Zongjio returned to his White Deer Manor, he had a feeling that he had come to the wrong place. Looking at the magnificent palace in front of him, it couldn't be considered a palace, but rather a grand mansion. In Nangong Wuji's hands, this vast piece of land seemed to be a work of art. He was able to build such a building in such a short time. Oh my God, brother, do you live in such a place in Monarch City? When Li Yun saw the White Deer Manor, she felt as if it had been reborn. The size of the manor was 10 times larger than the Li residence. It turned out that Li Zongjio used to live in such a place. In King City, he was actually so powerful. Li Yen could not believe her eyes. Was this still her brother? It wasn't like this before. These are all newly built. Li Zongjio was a little surprised. He didn't expect Nangong Wuji to be able to come up with something like this. The manor in front of him had all kinds of pavilions and lofts. Young master, you are back. Inghu stayed in the manor to take care of things. There had been a lot of things going on recently. However, it was relatively peaceful. Li's Chamber of Commerce was also thriving. After all, Li Zongjio was a living signboard. In addition, the few big clans wanted to curry favor with Li Zongjio. Naturally, they would support him secretly. Now, in Sacred Flame Royal City, Li Zongjio was the one they could not afford to offend. Where is Nangong Wuji? Li Zongjio naturally had to reward this old man for building such a huge manor. Unexpectedly, Li Zongjio was overjoyed that he had such a method. Elder Nangong went to ask for some building materials. He said that he wants to build a training block like the 5 Elements Yuan house. Inghu said. Inghu had witnessed Nangong Wuji's means in the past few days. He knew that Nangong Wuji was capable of anything. Moreover, Nangong Wuji's method of asking for materials was basically swindling. Nangong Wuji would use every trick to get materials, but he wouldn't pay for them. Where is he going to get the materials? When Li Zongjio heard that Nangong Wuji was so ambitious, he was very satisfied. Li Zongjio felt that Nangong Wuji was not bad. Li Zongjio decided to give him some benefits in the future. Qi Clan. Qi Clan? Li Zongjio was stunned when he heard this name. How did this guy get involved with the Qi Clan? However, he did not care about the situation. Li Zongjio. That's right, where are the disciples that my Li family sent over? They are all arranged to stay in the academy. After saying that, Inghu led Li Zongjio and the others to stroll around the newly built White Deer Manor. Li Zongjio's small courtyard had been renovated into a big entrance. Some of the previous rooms were also smashed. It seemed that this place would be turned into a square in the future. The academy was located on both sides of the square. The academy was divided into many different areas. There was a place for learning elixirs, a place for cultivating Yuan Li, and various classrooms. There were all kinds of small courtyards in the deeper part of the academy. These courtyards were used as dormitories. The main hall was located in the deeper part of the academy. There were side courtyards and side halls on both sides. Ordinary guests would be arranged to stay in these courtyards. Only the core members of the academy could enter the secluded training area. There were also hidden sentry towers in the surroundings. Li Zongjio and the other masters' dormitories were located in the deeper part of the training area. However, it seemed that the building was not completed yet. While they were walking, Li Yun suddenly exclaimed, "Oh my God, the layout of these buildings and roads is actually based on the array diagram." Li Yun suddenly stopped. When Li Zongjio came in, he vaguely felt that there was something different. However, he did not sense it as clearly as Li Yun did. She could tell the style of these buildings was based on the array diagram. Even Tian Fei couldn't help but glance at Li Yen. He didn't expect that this woman with an ordinary cultivation level would have such powerful insight. I did not expect a little girl like you to be so discerning." Just as Li Yun and the others stopped, they heard a hearty laughter coming from the sky. Then, a figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Li Zongjio. "My pavilion is based on the arrangement of the array of 3 mountains and 5 peaks in the scripture of 5 flowers. It is not completed yet. Once it is completed, you will know how awesome it is." Nangong Wuji said proudly as he landed on the ground. His face was filled with undisguised pride. He was so awesome and arrogant. At the same time, he looked at Li Zongjio with a provocative look, as if he was saying, "Since I said I would make it for you, I will definitely make it for you." Li Zongjio nodded and looked at Nangong Wuji. "Awesome, awesome." Li Zongjio could not help but applaud. "Where did you get this girl? She has a good eye." Nangong Wuji looked at Li Yun with a look of approval. After all, these things were not completed yet. It took a lot of eyesight for her to be able to see the clues from these things. "This is my cousin, Li Yun. This is Nangong Wuji. He is building houses for our Li family." Li Zongjio introduced. "Nice to meet you, Master Nangong," Li Yun said respectfully to Nangong Wuji. After all, the old man in front of her was an expert who could use the array in this building. He was not an ordinary person. He could only do this if he had a good understanding of the array. Nangong Wuji was such a person. "Hey, you are so polite. When you have time, you should talk about your younger brother. He is simply lawless," Nangong Wuji complained to Li Yen about Li Zongjio. Obviously, he felt that he was wronged and wanted to seek justice from Li Yen because he didn't receive the treatment that he deserved in this place. "Elder, where should I put these Xian gold pillars?" After Nangong Wuji finished speaking, he saw several young disciples joining hands to carry a 1-meter-long golden stick. But even so, bean-sized drops of sweat appeared on their foreheads. Apparently, it was very strenuous for them to carry it. "100 herbs? What are you doing?" Li Yun saw the newcomer. Wasn't this the outstanding disciple of the Li family, Li Baichao? Chapter 825. Li Baichao was not the only one. More than 30 disciples from the Li family were sent here to train themselves. At this moment, they were all called over by Nangong Wuji to do some hard work. But most importantly, none of these disciples dared to complain. They never thought that when they were brought to Li Zongjio's place, it was as if they were caught and sold. They were sold to the Black Mountain Forest and had to do this kind of hard work every day. If not for the fact that the name of the manor was really Li Zongjio, these people would have already fled back to the Li family. "Sister Li Yun!" Li Baichao exclaimed in surprise when he saw Li Yun in front of him. He had been working here for nearly half a month. He had not seen anything else. But after doing so much work, Li Baichao felt as if he was strengthening his body. But no one knew what kind of work he would have to do every day. If something happened, he would have to work through the night. In just half a month's time, Li Baichao had already experienced what it meant to be in total darkness. Now that he finally saw an acquaintance, he felt as if his eyes were brimming with tears. Young Lord is here too." When Li Baichao and the others saw Li Zongjio, they couldn't help but become excited. "Everyone is here, right? Since everyone is here, let's listen to Nangong Wuji and build this manor first." Li Zongjio looked at the people in front of him and said. Li Baichao and the others thought that Li Zongjio was their savior, but when they heard Li Zongjio's words, they immediately frowned. Who knew that Li Zongjio was even more decisive and directly ordered everyone to listen to his orders? Didn't this mean that these people would be sent to do this kind of hard work? However, Li Zongjio's status in the Li family was like that of a god. Who would dare to disobey him easily? Now that they saw the foundation that Li Zongjio had established, such strength was not a joke to be able to possess such formidable strength. Obviously, Li Zongjio must have suffered a lot in the process. Now, they naturally obeyed Li Zongjio's orders. However, the smile on Nangong Wuji's face became even brighter after he received the command arrow. He immediately ordered everyone to follow him and do something big. "If that's the case, then I won't chat with you for now. Little ones, follow me." Although he couldn't defeat Li Zongjio and was suppressed by Li Zongjio, Nangong Wuji was already very unhappy. Now that he was here, he naturally wanted to torture all the disciples of Li family under Li Zongjio's command. He also wanted to let these people know how powerful he was. Immediately, the disciples of the Li family cried out in pain. However, compared to before, they were more confident now. After seeing Li Zongjio personally appear, there was nothing they couldn't do. After all, These things were made for the Li family. So what if he contributed a little? This was a matter of course. Inghu, arrange a place for Li Yun to rest first. I will find you a powerful teacher later to teach you the Tao of arrays. Li Zongjio said. After hearing this, Li Yun was quite moved. Li Zongjio had always spared no effort in nurturing the Li family's disciples. He was never stingy in the slightest. He was tired from the long journey, so he naturally needed to rest. Kuan Erasher also said goodbye to Li Zongjio. As for where he was going, it was very obvious. He was probably going to run directly to the Mirror Moon Villa. How could Li Zongjio not know this guy's plan? Li Zongjio saw that Nangong Wuji carried so many building materials from other people's houses. These things must have cost a lot. He guessed that this bill must be on Li Zongjio. However, since Nangong Wuji didn't ask Li Zongjio for money, Li Zongjio naturally wouldn't take the initiative to give it to him. Young master, the stable hasn't been torn down yet. What should we do with the 2 prisoners in the stable? Inghu looked at Li Zongjio and said. This matter was very important, so Inghu naturally had to wait for Li Zongjio to come back and make a decision. Prisoners? What prisoners? If Inghu didn't mention it, Li Zongjio would have almost forgotten about it. The current 9th Prince Shen Ming was still locked up in the stable, and there was also the alchemist Lu Wenshan. However, Lu Wenshan was now living a very comfortable life in the White Deer Villa. Occasionally, he would go out for a breather, but once the time was up, he would automatically come back. Lu Wenshan knew that with the strength of Li Zongjio and the others, it would be easy for them to catch him. Most importantly, Lu Wenshan also asked people to inquire about the situation of Spirit Valley sect during this period, and it seemed to be very bad. Until now, the Spirit Valley sect had been suppressed by the Longevity Pavilion. After all, the people of the Longevity Pavilion had died in front of the Spirit Valley sect. This matter wasn't something that could be easily resolved. Therefore, Spirit Valley sect's days were very difficult, and it felt like they were about to disintegrate. When he found out that Spirit Valley sect was in such a bad state, Lu Wenshan made up his mind to join Li Zongjio's faction in the future. Only then would he be able to grasp his own opportunities. Who knows, he might even be able to break through earlier. Therefore, even if Lu Wenshan wanted to chase him away now, he might not necessarily leave. On the other hand, the 9th Prince had been locked up in the stable for several months. The 9th Prince, who had a bad temper and was extremely unhappy, became well-behaved after being beaten up several times in a row. He did not dare to move recklessly anymore. Every day, he was obedient and did his work in a well-behaved manner. The 9th Prince didn't dare to believe that he was in the White Deer Villa, and the people outside didn't know about it and came to save him. Therefore, the 9th Prince was very surprised that the Emperor deliberately left him here to be tortured by Li Zongjio. After a long time, he resigned himself to it. Now that I'm here, it might be the only way to save my life. Chapter 8:26. Therefore, the 9th Prince had decided to stay here for the time being. This was completely different from his previous attitude and character. However, the 9th Prince clearly knew that if he were to go out now, he would be at his weakest and would definitely be killed. His father and the others must know that he was imprisoned here. This was the best way to deal with it. However, if the 9th Prince wanted to freeload here, it was obviously impossible. Not to mention Li Zongjio, even Inghu would not let the 9th Prince stay idle. Li Zongjio directly handed over the matters of the stable to the 9th Prince. If he did not do a good job, Li Zongjio would directly beat him up without any mercy. Even if he was a prince, since he had fallen into Li Zongjio's hands, he could only accept his fate. Li Zongjio had no choice but to accept his fate. Now that he was living under someone else's roof, the 9th Prince was especially afraid of being chased out. If he was chased out, then the problem would become even bigger. Therefore, the 9th Prince had recently developed a well-behaved character. At first, he was a wild wolf, but in the end he became an obedient dog in front of Li Zongjio. In the White Deer manner, Dou Ling did not continue to stay here. A few days ago, she suddenly said that something had happened at home and took the Howling Moon Wolf King away. Li Zongjio finally knew how shameless the Howling Moon Wolf King was. It actually ran away with this beautiful girl. Li Zongjio was not worried about Do Ling Er's departure. With this girl's strength and terrifying background, there was basically no problem. There were probably many experts secretly protecting her even in the sacred flame royal city. This was why Do Ling Er could run around so unscrupulously. The reason why she was in such a hurry to go back was probably because something had happened at home. With the Howling Moon Wolf King by Do Ling Er's side, he would be able to take care of her. If there was an emergency, he would naturally have a way to inform Li Zongjio. In addition, with the Howling Moon Wolf King by Do Ling Er's side, he would definitely enjoy a good life. This saved Li Zongjio a lot of trouble. But if that was the case, he would have to find some time to catch something and bring it back. Otherwise, the courtyard would be empty. It would give people a feeling of insecurity. In the afternoon, Li Zongjio also found Du Lian. These days, the pawn shop that Du Lian was managing seemed to have reached a bottleneck. After all, such a mortgage industry required a huge amount of funds. All the money earned from the casino flowed into Li Zongjio's pocket, although Li Zongjio did not know how much money he had earned. Du Lian naturally, she could not use these resources. Therefore, the development had also entered a slow stage. She could only wait for the first batch of things to expire before auctioning them off. This process of recovering funds would take a long time. However, with Du Lian's wisdom, she had managed to hold on until now. "Young master, what can I do for you?" Du Lian looked at Li Zongjio and said respectfully. Du Lian could be said to have put her life in Li Zongjio's hands. Her lifelong wish had been fulfilled. However, Du Lian did not enter a state of emptiness, because she wanted to repay Li Zongjio's kindness. It would not be too much even if she used her life to repay Li Zongjio. She was afraid that her progress could not keep up with Li Zongjio's pace. In that case, she would become a burden to Li Zongjio. Du Lian did not want to become such a person. Therefore, she was constantly improving her strength, not only in terms of cultivation, but also in terms of ability. Take all of these things and see how far you can get them. Li Zongjio took out some of the things he had looted from Qingyuan Villa. There were also a lot of things in those big cities. When Du Lian saw that there were so many gold, silver and jewels in the storage ring, she was shocked. She was dumbfounded. Even though Du Lian had been prepared for this, she did not expect that such a situation would occur. These things, they are... Du Lian's mouth was wide open. Even she, the Queen of 9 Victories, who had been in the casino for so many years, had seen all kinds of scenes. However, this was the first time she had seen such a scene. When she saw so much wealth in front of her, it was no less than a disaster for Du Lian. These were all looted from Qingyuan Villa. With these things, can the pawn shop become the biggest in the city? Li Zongjio did not know much about economics, but this matter had to be done to the greatest extent. Otherwise, how could he protect the family in the future? If there were still enemies in this place, how could he hold on? Therefore, he had to do it to the greatest extent. It did not matter what method he used. With the support of such wealth, we will definitely become the biggest in the sacred flame royal city within 2 years. Du Lian forcefully suppressed her excitement and said, "I'll give you 1 year." Li Zongjio knocked on the table and said, although it was a little difficult, Li Zongjio knew how important time was to an expert. Now that he had been reborn, everything was uncertain. No one knew what would happen next. Of course, the faster, the better. Du Lian blinked her eyes a few times, then nodded firmly. "Don't worry, young lord. Lian will definitely succeed. Go!" Li Zongjio waved his hand. The wealth he had given Du Lian was at least equivalent to 10 years of income of a top family in a first-class city. If she could not do it with such generous conditions, Li Zongjio did not mind replacing her with someone else. At this time, it was time to test one's ability. Du Lian took her leave. After that, Tai Fai came to report the current situation. The income of the casino had been stable recently, and no one dared to cause trouble. After all, Li Zongjio's businesses were unstoppable in the eyes of ordinary people. As long as he did not lag behind, it would be the same no matter who did it. Since that was the case, Why did he have to go through so much trouble to replace her? What's more, it was not easy to replace Li Zongjio. Currently, Li Zongjio's account in Baoning Bank. He already had more than 40 billion purple yuan. When those guys arrive, I will get my hands on yuan beasts, yuan stones, and yuan weapons. Li Zongjio's eyes were filled with unprecedented confidence. This was not something he did not dare to think about. He was already a supreme being in his previous life. What else was there that he did not dare to think about? Even these were just child's play. These fellows that Li Zongjio was talking about were naturally the 4 major craftsmen that Qingyuan Villa had just incorporated. Of course, this kind of ready-made resource couldn't be wasted so easily. If it was used well, the effect it could bring would be unimaginable. Chapter 8:27. Li Zongjio took some time to go to the Rain Building. He bought a set of information. It was information about the current array masters. When Li Zongjio received the information, he skimmed through it. There are 4 array masters in the north, south, east, and west. East Xianqing and West Shenhe are considered the pinnacle array masters in the Origin Emperor realm. However, this Shenhe clan seems to be a crazy clan. A group of people are so weird. As for this Master Xianqing, I should go and take a look if I have the chance. However, the information showed that Master Xianqing seemed to be wandering around recently. God knows where this old man went. It was hard to find him in such a short time. In the south, there was a person in the poison sect of Nanjiang called Nancheng. He was good at poison arrays, which was not suitable for Li Yun to cultivate. She had to deal with strange insects every day. Moreover, it was not easy to enter the Nanjiang tribe. The north was even more mysterious. Even the information was not complete. Only one name was known: Master Beihan. His only achievement was to freeze a super fortress in the north. He became famous after that battle. It was said that this place was still frozen for thousands of miles all year round. The cold air was bone-piercing, and no one dared to approach it. No one dared to believe that such a place existed. It was said that the people in the fortress were still vivid and lifelike. They are all a bunch of damn people. Li Zongjio did not expect that there were only a few famous array masters. As for the ones in his previous life, Li Zongjio did not have much contact in this area. It was impossible for them to be omnipotent. Therefore, he could only rely on the current information. There is one more here. Li Zongjio saw that there was a piece of paper in the information. It said that the information was not verified. Not verified. Sacred Flame Royal City, King of Fire, Rank 6 Array Master. King of the Underground Black Market. Source of the information, ominous. When Li Zongjio saw this, he knew that the King of Fire must be a powerful figure. There is one in the Sacred Flame Royal City. Why didn't you say so earlier? What a waste of all the information he had read. Now that he was looking at the information in his hand, Li Zongjio knew that he should meet the King of Fire first. It sounded powerful. In any case, no matter what kind of temper the Fire Wraith King had, Li Zongjio was confident that he could take care of him. This was Li Zongjio's ability. When Li Zongjio walked out of the Rain Pavilion, he immediately realized that someone was following him. What era was it? Of course, there were people who wanted to follow Li of God? Could it be that they didn't know who Li Zongjio was? Li Zongjio walked on the street normally and didn't bother with these people. Luring these people to a remote corner to deal with them was something that only children would do. Li Zongjio was already mature. If he could avoid fighting, he would try his best not to. He had to stabilize the situation first. However, Li Zongjio didn't make a move, but that didn't mean that the other party wouldn't. There was a group of people in front of him, all of them wearing strange masks. This was the main street of the Holy Flame Royal City. Were the people nowadays so bold? When Li Zongjio stopped, he realized that the people on the street were all in disguise. When Li Zongjio came closer, they stopped what they were doing and stared at Li Zongjio with all kinds of weapons in their hands. It was broad daylight and the world was clear. To be able to wield weapons like this, they must have a very strong background. A person who seemed to be the leader of the group walked out from the crowd. He was wearing a minotaur mask on his face. It's such a hot day. How can you wear a mask like this? Li Zongjio looked at the person in front of him and couldn't help but say, this guy was really resistant to the heat. He could even wear such a thick mask. Our master would like to invite you to come over. The Minotaur general came in front of Li Zongjio and said in a deep voice, if your master wants to invite me, then let him come over himself. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Although the entire street was filled with the other party's men, Li Zongjio wasn't worried at all. It didn't matter how many people there were. Before taking action, it was best to think clearly. Otherwise, when the fight started, there wouldn't be a chance to leave. The Minotaur general gently held the weapon in his hand. The people around him immediately stared at Li Zongjio with murderous intent, as if they were ready to attack at any time. Li Zongjio's Zhang Exen was burning with flames. The black flames were suffused with a cold light. When the people around him saw this, they felt that this power was too terrifying. Their eyes were filled with caution. If Lord King of Fire wants to see someone, then he will see them. The bull-headed general let out a low roar. The muscles on his body instantly bulged, appearing just like a raging bull. He furiously glared at Li Zongjio, who was in front of him. Even his head was slightly lowered, as though he was prepared to launch a charge at any time. Wait! Just as he was about to make his move, Li Zongjio heard what the Minotaur general said. King of Fire? Your master is called King of Fire? Li Zongjio heard the Minotaur general's words. Originally, he didn't care about the other party's name. However, this name was too familiar. This was because he had seen this name a few seconds ago. How could he not be familiar with it? Not bad. Now you know how to be afraid? The Minotaur general sneered. The appearance of these people represented the King of Fire's subordinates. Could it be that this Li Zongjio in front of him didn't know? In the Holy Flame Royal City, only people from the underground black market would dress up like this. However, Li Zongjio didn't seem to know at all. He didn't even know where they came from. Just like this, how did Li Zongjio make a name for himself in the Holy Flame Royal City? It was really curious. Since it's the King of Fire, I'll go with you. Li Zongjio couldn't help but say. He was just thinking about how to talk to the King of Fire, but these people took the initiative to come knocking on his door. Later on, Li Zongjio chatted with the Minotaur general for a while. Only then did he know that these people were from the underground black market. It seemed like they were looking for him this time because he had robbed a shop in the underground black market previously. However, he wasn't nervous when he found out. It wasn't like Li Zongjio hadn't experienced this kind of small matter before. When Li Zongjio followed these people, most of them also returned to their camouflaged state and gradually retreated. The Minotaur general brought Li Zongjio to the incense street again. This time, they entered from another entrance. Once again, they returned to the underground black market. It was the same as last time, but this time, he brought Li Zongjio directly to the Ghost King Palace that belonged to the King of Fire. When Li Zongjio arrived at the Ghost King Palace, he couldn't help but admit that these people were really amazing. They were actually able to build such a luxurious palace dozens of feet underground. You've even gone so far as to act pretentious. Your family's lord is truly unprecedented. Li Zongjio couldn't help but say. The Minotaur general didn't say much and brought Li Zongjio directly to the main hall. Along the way, the things they saw were all monsters and monsters, giving them the feeling that they were real. From some of the carvings, Li Zongjio felt a trace of extraordinariness. The aura of hell. Chapter 8:28. The King of Fire had been waiting in the main hall for a long time. The King of Fire seemed to be resting in the main hall when he had nothing to do. But in reality, he was cultivating. The construction of the Ghost King Palace was very particular. After such a long time of accumulation, he needed to lie here every day to strengthen his cultivation. Therefore, the King of Fire would cultivate in the main hall when he had nothing to do. It seemed like he had a lot of free time. Li Zongjio, you sure have guts. You actually dared to stand me up. The King of Fire was also wearing a very heavy mask and red clothes, as if it was his zodiac year. As a man, he actually wore red clothes. Li Zongjio felt his scalp go numb. Could this guy be a pervert? If he handed Li Yun over to this guy, would something happen to her? Li Zongjio began to worry in his heart. He didn't know where Li Zongjio's confidence came from. It was as if the other party would definitely agree to his request. You are the king of fire, right? Is it your zodiac year? Why are you wearing such red clothes? Are you a pervert? Li Zongjio directly asked his question. He didn't even answer the king of fire's question. Impudent, how dare you ignore the ghost king's words? A man wearing a horse-face mask quickly came forward and roared angrily. Li Zongjio casually slapped the horse-face general and sent him flying. Boom! The horse-face general flew for more than 10 meters and hit a pillar. He spat out a mouthful of blood and stopped. I'm talking to your boss. Don't interrupt, okay? Li Zongjio was still being polite. Normally, when he was speaking, he wouldn't know what these things were. If they dared to interrupt, they would be directly beaten to death. The rest of the people were also ready to fight. They wanted to take down Li Zongjio because Li Zongjio was too arrogant. They were already in the other party's territory, but he still dared to act so recklessly. He simply didn't put their men in his eyes. The King of Fire gently raised his hand, indicating for these people to step back. You are quite courageous. But this is the Ghost King Palace, not your White Deer Manor. The King of Fire growled. Although he was wearing a mask, his eyes revealed a trace of ferocity. He directly crushed Li Zongjio. The enormous spiritual pressure was like a stone pillar that reached the heavens. It was constantly pressing down on Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio stood still and allowed the other party's mental energy pressure to assault him. At this moment, the stone pillar that was formed from mental energy was directly smashed to pieces. Rumble! Li Zongjio's spiritual defense was equally strong. The King of Fire's spiritual power was actually unable to pose any threat to Li Zongjio. Moreover, Li Zongjio seemed to be more adept than the King of Fire in the use of his spiritual power. Your spiritual power is so soft? Spiritual power was naturally the most direct part. Li Zongjio could sense some of the characteristics of his opponent's spiritual power. These power attributes were naturally unable to escape Li Zongjio's eyes. When the King of Fire heard Li Zongjio's words, he also became slightly nervous. He immediately roared and a sudden force wrapped around Li Zongjio in an instant. The terrifying force attacked. The surroundings seemed to be a world of flames that wanted to devour and refine Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio, do you want to die? This was clearly within the opponent's domain. The King of Fire also appeared at this moment. He appeared in front of Li Zongjio. However, he did not wear a mask. Instead, he appeared in front of Li Zongjio in his real body. Oh, it turns out to be a woman. When Li Zongjio saw the King of Fire's real body, he suddenly understood. No wonder this girl was so anxious to block his mouth. It turned out to be a woman. This was interesting. It turned out that this person who had been in the underground world for so many years was actually a woman. If those uncouth people outside knew about this, they would probably be so ashamed that they would want to die. It was really interesting. Cut the crap. The last time I went to find you, I left you a message and asked you to come find me. How dare you be so arrogant? When the King of Fire mentioned Li Zongjio, she was very angry. Since he did not give her any face, then don't blame the King of Fire for not being polite. Is there such a thing? Li Zongjio could not remember clearly. When the King of Fire saw that Li Zongjio did not take her seriously, she was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She was the dignified King of Fire. How could she lower herself to look for you? Now that she was there, she obviously lowered her status. But this brat actually did not want to give her face. This directly angered the King of Fire. She did not wait for Li Zongjio to appear and directly sent people to capture Li Zongjio. She wanted to teach this Li Zongjio a lesson, but who knew that this Li Zongjio's progress was so fast? In such a short time, he actually did not put her in his eyes. Of course, if she used her full strength, it was not impossible to deal with Li Zongjio. In comparison, this Li Zongjio's strength was still relatively weak. There was no need to be afraid. However, the King of Fire did not look for this Li Zongjio for such a trivial matter. What could these trivial matters amount to? Cut the crap. I called you here because I need your help with something. Are you going to help me or not? The Fire Wraith King was very direct and didn't have any intention of beating around the bush. He waved his long sleeves and walked in front of Li Zongjio. His eyes stared at Li Zongjio as if he was telling him that Li Zongjio had to agree even if he didn't want to. If he didn't agree, then he would directly stab Li Zongjio in the stomach. It was simply too scary. Oh, you have something to ask of me? Sure. When Li Zongjio heard that the King of Fire had something to ask of him, his mouth almost stretched to the back of his ears. There was actually such a good thing. Now, wouldn't Li Zongjio change from passive to active? Although he did not care about these things very much. But if you do this, then you will give Li Zongjio more opportunities and reduce the difficulty for Li Zongjio. Tell me, what do you need me to help you with? Li Zongjio stood with his hands behind his back and said, May 15th, Ghost King's Secret Realm. Do you know? The King of Fire looked at Li Zongjio and said indifferently. Since Li Zongjio did not directly refuse, it meant that it was a good start. He only hoped that Li Zongjio would not be frightened by what he was going to say next. Chapter 829. May 15th. The Ghost King's Secret Realm. When Li Zongjio heard these words, he knew that it was not so simple. In addition, the King of Fire had personally come to him, so it was definitely not simple. I've heard of it. Thinking back, he seemed to have seen this thing in his previous life, but at that time, he only heard about it briefly and did not go to see what was going on. Anyway, he did not know who found this Ghost King's secret realm. It was said that there were a lot of unorthodox yuan cultivation methods and some dark yuan weapons. It was like a secret realm, but the difference was that it was also full of danger. The Ghost King's secret realm was also interesting. It required a male and female partner to explore it. Therefore, the King of Fire came to Li Zongjio. Come with me to this Ghost King's secret realm. Whatever you want, I will satisfy you. The King of Fire was heroic. Even in this holy flame royal city, there were very few things that she could not do and promises that she could not fulfill. Therefore, as long as Li Zongjio said it, then she would definitely be able to do it. No problem, this is a small matter. Since you said that you will satisfy me, then I happen to have something that I need your help with. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Listening to his tone, this guy seemed to mean that he needed her, the King of Fire. That would be her, the King of Fire's blessing. The King of Fire was naturally very unhappy with this arrogant guy. He even wanted to slap Li Zongjio a few times. However, considering that Li Zongjio still had some value, he would endure it for the time being. What is it? Just say it. The King of Fire said indifferently. Since he had already promised Li Zongjio, he could not be stingy. After all, Li Zongjio had agreed without hesitation. He didn't even ask what they were going to do in the Ghost King's secret realm. Of course, the King of Fire only needed one person to go in with her. He didn't ask Li Zongjio to do anything. Of course, during the process, there might be some dangers. The King of Fire didn't dare to promise Li Zongjio anything. As long as his corpse was intact, that was fine. I heard that you are proficient in the Tao of formations. I would like to invite you to be someone's teacher. Li Zongjio said. Impossible. I, the King of Fire, have never accepted disciples. Don't even think about trying to have anything to do with me. King of Fire refused without hesitation. It seems like this Li Zongjio wants to follow the vine to the melon and directly pick a ready-made one. He actually wants to take me as his teacher. He is really unspeakably smelly and shameless. What kind of shameless behavior was that? He simply couldn't stand it anymore. Bah, who wants to have anything to do with you? Do you think I want to take you as my teacher? Then you are not qualified. Li Zongjio looked at the King of Fire's expression that said he had seen through him and directly shouted. This little girl was giving him too much face. She actually wanted to take Li Zongjio as her disciple. Not for the best. As for teaching the Tao of formations, it is now March. There is still more than a month until May. You just need to bring the person here. I can guide him at most until then. In order to show his cold attitude, the King of Fire certainly had to set a strange principle. For example, the current time limit. Otherwise, if he asked you to help him, but in the end, he got a guy who was a burden, it would be a very bad thing for the King of Fire. Okay, it's settled. Li Zongjio thought for a while. A month's time was almost enough. The master can lead the way, but the cultivation depends on the person. What's more, with the King of Fire's Tao of Formations, it might not be a good thing to follow him for a long time. Therefore, he directly agreed. 1.5 months, then 1.5 months. By the way, when you go out later, you have to keep it a secret. The King of Fire suddenly said to Li Zongjio. Of course, there was no need to talk about this secret. It was just that the fact that the ferocious Fire Ghost King was actually a woman was kept a secret. It wasn't a big deal anyway. Don't worry, I'm not a person who gossips. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said, It must be said that these people below were a group of idiots. They couldn't even distinguish between men and women. After repeatedly confirming, the King of Fire withdrew his domain power and let Li Zongjio out. This time I'll let you go. Send him to me later. The King of Fire's figure appeared in the Ghost King Palace. Li Zongjio also returned to his original place. At this moment, the people around also gathered around. Obviously, the King of Fire was looking for a way to teach Li Zongjio a lesson. When the Fire Wraith Monarch was done speaking, his body swayed and he disappeared right before Lin Yun's eyes. Li Zongjio did not even have a chance to refute. Fuck, this woman actually dared to take advantage of me. Listening to these words, one would really think that the King of Fire had taught Li Zongjio a lesson. Moreover, this woman ran away after saying that, not giving Li Zongjio any chance to confront her. Wasn't this move ruthless? Li Zongjio also had no way to deal with it. In the end, he helplessly waved his hand. What are you looking at? Do you want to enter the clinic? Li Zongjio glared at the masked Oxhead General. The Oxhead General was so frightened that he could not help but take a step back. After all, the horse-faced general who was sent flying by Li Zongjio's slap was still unconscious. With Li Zongjio's skills, he was quite powerful. Therefore, this threat was also very powerful. After that, Li Zongjio swaggered out of here. However, when he left, Li Zongjio did not suffer any losses. He randomly found a shop and went in to ransack it. The shop owner did not even have time to react before he was directly knocked down by Li Zongjio and tied up. It was not until 3 days later that he was discovered. However, he did not even see Li Zongjio's appearance clearly, so there was nothing he could do. Even if he reported it to the Ghost King Palace, there was nothing he could do. Moreover, Li Zongjio was now a big shot in front of the Ghost King Palace's boss. No one dared to make a move. Everyone behaved themselves and did not dare to offend Li Zongjio. Of course, this was a story for later. When Li Zongjio returned to the White Deer Manor, he called Li Yun over. Li Yun was quite busy recently. On one hand, she had to continue to familiarize herself with the control of the Qilin battleship. On the other hand, she had to thoroughly understand the incomplete Book of Formations. It seemed that she had been immersed in the incomplete Book of Formations and could not extricate herself. Nangong Wuji and Hong Shisan led a group of disciples of the Li family to carry out the construction of the new White Deer Manor. Everything was on the right track. In a short time, Li Zongjio had already arranged these things properly. Zongjio, are you looking for me? Li Yun came in front of Li Zongjio. Originally, Li Yun wanted to call Li Zongjio young master like the other disciples, but she was rejected by Li Zongjio. Calling him by his name was more intimate. Li Yun was naturally happy to hear such a request. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.